No preamble. Jumping right in. Alright, so we left off with okay, we got this guy, and then we got, let's go to Voorhees 02. And next we're going to be doing Hellraiser. I don't know, I'm sure he has a real name. I think his nickname is Pinhead. There we go. There's these two boys. Let's go ahead and turn perspective off. And I think I'm going to start with, let's go here and just say delete all, since I don't want those taking up memory or auto saves. And then I'm going to alt tap the mask. I'm going to say delete the mask, delete the hair, delete the collar. The shirt we'll leave around, even though it makes it look like a offensive coordinator for the Jets or something. Hello, Huzifina. Sorry if I butchered that name. Okay, so we got a head in here, and we're gonna make it into a this guy here. Load this up. Right off the top, if you kind of want to follow along, or you're newish to ZBrush, I always shout these out on my ArtStation page. I can't find it anymore. There you go. There's the intro to ZBrush, and then there's a bunch of intro to ZBrush What's New type stuff. I'm going to drop that in chat, and then also on YouTube. Underneath playlists, there's the intro to ZBrush, there's the What's New stuff, a couple more odds and ends, and then if you scroll down to the big blue genie, which, there he is, that is all of the live streams that we've done, including this one, and including the last one. So check those out. So let's turn this guy into a Pinhead, and I'm thinking maybe we might even be able, since this is a multi-expression pack, and I can go in here to my layers. Oh yeah, let me pull that up. This is the multi-expression base mesh. Hold on, let me move my, move my table up a little bit. Let's see if this is up and running again. Scan store. Yay! You can grab it here for free. So check it out. And we just have one of their displacement map scans plugged in here. So with this, if we want to do, you know what, I guess we do have a slight expression in here. Did we not open his eyes a little bit? Eyes tight? No. Yeah, so if we want to do like a snarl or something, we can go through and, there we go. We can go through and kind of play around with some of this, because we won't be changing the vert order. We'll just be kind of painting and stuff. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go down here temporarily, take this texture map, turn it off for now, and we'll switch over to a startup material. We will turn off everything but the head. Just hold down shift, turn off the little eyeball there, and we got the teeth and eyeballs and tongue, and I think we're good to go. I think this is pretty close. So like I said, it looks generally pleasant. It looks like they're coming out with a new Hellraiser, which is kind of neat. But most pictures I see of him are him being generally pleasant. Minus this one where he gets a little grimacy, but even then, he's just kind of creepily indifferent. So I think we'll start there, which is lucky because that's kind of just a neutral face, right? And we'll go into geometry, and we have a couple subdivisions already built into this. So we'll just kind of work our way up and just kind of dial in a little bit. I'm gonna hold down shift, turn down my Z intensity. By default for me, my let me see, my smooth brush modifiers over here, I have it set to weighted smooth mode of 1, which always smooths a little bit strong, which is fine. That's what I want it for. But you'll see me go in there and turn down my Z intensity a bit on lower res meshes. Okay, so yeah, he's just a general dude. So we'll just kind of dial this in. In fact, we might even be able to morph him to a female version, which might be kind of fun. I don't know. We might play around with that. Okay, so soft brow. Usually what I'll do is like a clay buildup, low Z intensity, and just kind of working across the forms just to kind of build them up very easily, very nicely. For softer stuff, maybe even clay brush is a little less. Just go in there and kind of clay brush it up. His lips are a little bit thinner, so I'm going to go in here to my pinch brush and just kind of just pass my pinch brush over the lip area. If you wanted to mask that out, you could, but I think we're okay. And then, yeah, it looks like on his little corners of his lips, and again, we're just kind of looking at, you know, very, I don't know, kind of pacifist looking face, minus the pin sticking out of it. Although I guess if he never really, I'm trying to remember back when I watched the movie, I think the first one was pretty good, if I remember correctly. It was different. Past that point, it got a little bit, I don't know, BDSM or whatever, but I suppose if my whole deal was, let's go ahead and give him a little bit more of a bow in here. Anyway, he seems generally pleasant except for when you open the little puzzle box, and then he gets a little bit, I don't know, he's even generally pleasant when he shows up. He himself, I don't remember him doing much. I remember just hooks flying. Those were the ones causing most of the problems. But him, he was just generally kind of there saying weird stuff, like stuff about pain. Hello, hey, John Yu. Oh, cool. Yeah, the What's New stuff should keep them occupied for a while. Working without perspective. If you have perspective on and you're working on a face, it looks like you're working on like a you know, fish-eyed lens. You can't go in here to draw, and you can change your focal length, but honestly, like, if I'm doing a likeness, then I'll turn on perspective, match the focal length, use like ref switcher to kind of switch between different references, which, I mean, I guess we could do. Let me just load up. Let me see here. Let me take this out of... Oh man, I'm so sick of this WebP nonsense. Open image in new tab. Like, seriously. WebP, stop. Okay, share file, desktop, blah, 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 blah. Save. For example, go in here to, and we're just going to do one, so I don't need to use ref switcher, but we'll just say import, and then we'll just grab from my desktop this thing. Select it, add it to Spotlight. Any super black areas might be transparent, so that's when I go into intensity and just crank that up a little bit, and then we'll increase the size and we'll decrease the opacity a little bit. And then now we can use this to kind of, you know, put our face in here again. But if the face is going to be this big and you turn on perspective, it's going to do some possibly wacky stuff with your field of view, which may or may not be desirable. But yeah, generally speaking, I mean, this base mesh face is fairly consistent. I'm actually going to drop the size down a bit just to kind of back it off. And that's another thing too, is when you're working at scale, for instance, if we were doing like a scale model and you're working on it and you have perspective on and you're working on it like this and then you back out, this is really like, if you're doing like a 6-inch figure, this is how your human eye is going to see it. Unless you hold it up next to your face while you're looking at it, which you're probably not, then this is more accurate. But it's really hard to work on things from this distance, right? That's when perspective off comes into play. Granted, it might look a little bit weird orthographically working on a face, but honestly, it's not that big a deal. And if you need to check your proportions, just turn perspective on, grab your reference, and call it a day. But yeah, I almost exclusively work without perspective on. It just irritates me. And if you're doing hard surface stuff, I would say never work with perspective on, unless you're, again, checking reference, and then by all means, you know, turn perspective on, match your camera angle from your reference. But perspective on will wreak havoc on your IMM brushes. Okay, so let's say a Z. I'm going to move this over here, and we're going to do our opacity. We're just going to kind of go back and forth and be like, okay, looks like my lips need to go up just a bit. This little lip line here, and then we'll maybe move his eyes up just a smidge. Maybe nose is okay. Ears, I mean, we can match the ears a little bit better, I suppose. Good enough. And of course, we're only matching this from one view, so when you're moving stuff around, it could be a little bit, you might be doing more damage than you might think moving it from one view. Let's turn these corners down just a little bit more. And also the camera might need to be turned just a little bit more. Actually, if you hold down, what is it? Shift and then let go, you can rotate. You can kind of rotate it like this, the camera. So we can kind of scoot it over. Okay, oh, and if you want to save this view, by the way, let's go ahead and do that. Movie, timeline, show. Let's go ahead and just tap in here and then turn that off. So if we move this around and then we use our arrow keys, we can snap it back. So, and of course we don't want to move, there we go. And then I'll move this over here. Close enough for government work. And what's really going to sell this guy is the pins in his head. So we'll just go and start doing that. So let's go ahead and thin his lip out a little bit. If I'm going to move this around, let's go in here to brush. Again, with the move brush, auto masking, and I'm going to turn on topological, maybe change my range down to like 1.5. If you hit the B key at your brush, there is a BM, there is a move topological in there if you want to set hotkey to that, but I usually have my brush menu open so I can just quickly dial that in. So again, go through here and we'll thin out this top lip. And when I'm moving this one around, oops, move acu. Sorry, sometimes I'll use my move acu brush, which is basically just the move brush with acu curve turned on, and that'll just allow you to pull the corners and give you a little bit more or less fall off when you're moving stuff around. So he does have quite a little bow right here for underneath his philtrum. And then generally a lip, and then generally that. So let's go into Damn Standard 02, which you might have to download from the internet, and that'll give you a nice little, like a deeper brush here. Oh, you know, we could do it. We could throw this into MetaHuman. You can use this sculpt. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll do that. I forgot I was going to do that yesterday because I'm flaky and I forget things. And then he does have some eye bags through here. Let's go ahead and take this here. And then again, Damn Standard 02. And we'll just kind of carve in just a little bit. About here. And we'll go ahead and, looks like when I was working on the Myers face, I put in a quite heavy eye bags there. This guy's not so heavy. And again, what's going to sell this guy is the pin sticking out of his head. So we'll get there. Okay, Alt Z is my Damn Standard 02. He's got some wrinkles across his forehead. We can go ahead and dial some of those in. This kind of stuff you probably shouldn't do symmetrically. Just throw that out there. Let's go with subdivision level 3. Here we go. Just slowly work our way up the subdivision levels. Just like a sketch, you'll start low, get your volumes in, and then you'll just slowly raise up until you get to more detailed stuff. And then in through here, let's go switch to our Damn Standard brush. We'll hold down Alt and just kind of run and then let go of Alt, and we'll just kind of go through and just do some real quick diving in here. Damn Standard 02 a little bit. So the Damn Standard 02 does a really nice cut and crease. The regular Damn Standard is a little bit softer of a fall off, and then if you want a really soft fall off, you can use like the Orbs Cracks brush. That I don't use too much for this type of thing. And then again, go up here, we'll just kind of clean up around the nose and this fold here, and then go back in and smooth. And now if you smooth, just hold down Shift and smooth, it'll kind of spread your mesh. If you hold down Shift and then let go of smooth, it'll maintain your volume a little bit more, so that's sometimes useful. And then from this angle, we'll go ahead and, looks like it also kind of comes around this way. So let's go back to our clay buildup brush again, very low intensity, and just slightly build this up here, and then shift to smooth around. This is kind of, I don't know, probably pretty boring to watch. So I'm going to rush through this just a little bit here, just to kind of get just enough, close enough for government work. we got more heads to make. So let's go ahead and round this out a little bit. His ears are nice little ears, very round, very well proportioned. Okay. And then maybe a little more weight underneath here. And then if you want to age somebody, sometimes you can, right here, you'll have some submandibular fat deposits and stuff like this. Your skin will start hanging around this area and you get jowly. In this version I'm looking at, not super old, so we'll go ahead and leave that alone. Okay. All right, and so this is our base head. We can continue going up. Again, we do have a displacement map we can dial in. Texture map, let's do this. Let's go in here to texture, create new, fill with, texture new. Let me see. That's fine. That's fine. We'll just switch our material out. So now, if we wanted to, actually, so we have turned our displacement, we have a texture on here. The texture we have loaded in isn't actually loaded in. So I'm going to actually clone this texture off. So it'll shoot it into our texture map. And then from here, I can go into my texture and I can adjust my texture. So if we want to say, what would be the best way to do this? RGB, I'm going to turn the RGB intensity up a little bit and then take the saturation way down. And we're just going to kind of make him a little more milky. And in fact, let's shift his hue over to the cools a little bit, maybe like the blues. And again, the saturation way down. I don't know. We'll see how this works. And again, we're not doing this in the Polypaint. This is actually the texture. So we hit OK. That'll update that texture, and then I can swap this out, and that could kind of form the base of the Hellraiser thing we're doing. If we wanted to have a little bit more, or if we want to start painting on this, we can go in here to Polypaint. I'm going to go up to my highest subdivision level. I think I capped it at like 12 million. I didn't feel like going to 30 million because that's when it starts getting real laggy. So 12 million is fine. I think no one's going to call us out too hard on that. And we'll go over here to Polypaint, Polypaint from texture with RGB turned on. So we're going to transfer this texture map to our Polypaint here. And then once we've done that, in fact, we don't even need our texture map anymore. We just turn that off. And then, oh, actually, we do need some sort of a texture map. And I keep thinking was there not like a texture new? You know what? Hold on. I'm going to do this. I do have something sitting around. What was I working on? Recording, character creator, white. Texture, white, texture map, white. Okay, so now I can have my displacement on with a texture on, and then we can just look at that. Good. So what was I talking about? Oh, right. So we can apply this displacement map to our model at, you know, the highest subdivision level. But I think for now, I'll just go ahead and turn off my displacement map and my texture, and we'll just worry about the Polypaint for now. So we do have Polypaint turned on. I'm going to switch over to Skin Shader 4. If you have a huge texture loaded into ZBrush, this can kind of make it a little bit laggy sometimes. Just go in here and just turn that off so it's not thinking about it, because you can actually paint with that if you needed to. So let's go ahead and say, let's try this. I'm going to hold down Control and tap the latest point in our history. I'm going to hit BX to go into Extractor. Let's grab the Extractor brush. I'm going to hit G, and we're just going to kind of sample this part of the head here. And then I'm going to take my Z intensity and turn that off. And then for RG, Z intensity was at 3 for Extractor? Oh. I wonder if I had inherited. Anyway, I have RGB turned on, and now I can use the Extractor brush to sample what we had, because we just basically grabbed the texture from the head, and now we can use this to kind of paint over this area. So you can kind of use this, and if you need a sample from over here, we can actually switch our brush. Let's go BX Extractor. Let's do Extractor drag rect. Again, just hit G, and then we can just grab an area. And then I'll go ahead and grab the off and texture again. I'm going to turn off Z because we're not, I mean, you could paint with texture, or not paint with texture, but sculpt while you paint. But in this case, I'm just going to go through here and just stamp, just to kind of get through that. And then let's go back to our BX. Oops. And this is why I don't go to 30 million, because it gets slow. BX XTractor. And then we have our alpha loaded in, and then we can just kind of paint through. That'll give us just enough head texture and stuff. So we'll get rid of this fuzz, because he looks like he's wearing either a bald cap or they really razor shaved him. We don't want him looking too human, because in the movie I don't know that he's supposed to be like real relatable. Again, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but that was the feeling I was getting. I was like, I don't think me and Hellraiser have a lot in common. And let's go back to our extractor drag rect here. And again, if there's anything that's like got a weird harsh line or something, again, you can just hit G, sample from near that area, and then just use this as like a clone stamp tool. Give it a second. The more you capture textures, sometimes the longer it takes. Okay, let me get caught up here. If I miss any comments, please forgive me. They're coming in fast. Do I have any courses? My YouTube channel, my Gumroad, CJMA. I teach a course, but insert edge tool similar to Maya's multi-cut, where you can cut on faces. And then that goes there's excellent. Yeah, there's the slice brushes, which are fun to use. Let's see. So we'll go through here. Well, in fact, we did capture this texture, so I wonder if I go in here to this latest one, and again, you can go in here to adjust colors, and it's like, I need this to be just a little bit lighter. Say okay, and then if we grab that one that we adjusted, I think that'll brighten it up. Just, yeah, okay. So you can go in and adjust your textures as needed. And then, of course, you don't have to use just texture sampling. I'm just going to kind of feather that border a little bit where we kind of did that. You can also just go into, say, standard brush. We'll go in here to texture. No, alpha. Let's grab this scratchy alpha, alpha 23. RGB, we'll turn that Z intensity, or you know what, you could also go BPA for your paintbrush, just standard brush with Z turned off, but I don't know why. I just mess with my standard brush a lot, which is not great. So then we can hit C to sample just this light-ish blue color, and then we can, let's turn on X symmetry. And then we can go through here, let's turn off our lazy mouse as well. Just tap L on your keyboard, and that'll toggle off stroke lazy mouse. So I'm going to turn my lazy radius up. That'll give us that nice even stroke. But if I don't want it, just tap L to turn that off. And then again, RGB intensity down a little bit, and then you can go through here and just kind of brush over any areas just to kind of make them a little more I guess it is monochromatic, but you know what I mean. So, all right, so we got this going. I'm just going to go through here and lighten it up, kind of get rid of his skin texture, which is cool, and I do like it, but he's kind of painted up from what I can tell. Not a ton of detail. So when we do apply our displacement map, we might dial that back a little bit just to make it look like he's got some stage makeup on. That's assuming that you're going to be doing some real close-up shots, which probably we aren't. But anyway, so we've got this going. Now, looking at his reference, it's white and then kind of undertones of magenta and kind of purpley stuff. So we'll lean into that. Although some of these he's got more like blue. Let's make this a little bit darker, a little more saturated, and then again, just using the scratchy alpha, we're just going to go and kind of lay in a base of blue eyeshadow, or in the case of the movie, I guess it would be like some sort of vaguely undeadness right around here, and then around the lips here. Just play this up a little bit and give him a little bit of a, what was that one? Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or Excellent Journey. And the lines in his head too. In fact, if you want to go in like your Damien Standard brush and just use this to paint in as well. You can again turn off Z sub, turn on RGB, and then you can paint with a little bit more of a controlled line, or even maybe even better. Damn Standard 02, go in here with a RGB. Oh, this is actually gonna paint on the outside because that's where the white is. That's not gonna work so much unless we hold down Alt. But that's gonna pick up the black. That's fine. Let's say Damien Standard with a very small brush size, and then a very low RGB intensity. And then let's go back to our standard brush. Let's pop this alpha out. We'll maybe do an alpha 06. And then C to sample. And I do want to throw in, like I said, that there's maybe a little bit warmer. Not a ton, but just little hints of something different so it's not so samey. I would say like where the blood pools, you can kind of lean into like, you know, warmer here and here and here, but on him it's not going to work so good since he's just white. So again, cool. We'll go way up to the whites now, and now we'll just kind of really kind of cake on some makeup here. And I'm using the scratchy alpha just so it's not just right now just pure painting like an airbrush, although I think we'll dump this alpha in just a second and we will start just airbrushing in some white, but for now we're kind of peppering in fact, on this thing you can go in here to the stroke. If you do like a color spray, you can actually change the color and it'll kind of vary the color around what color you have selected, but again, in this case he's fairly monochromatic, so but I just gotta want to put a little bit, just a tiny indications of maybe just a little skin. And then, like I said, we'll dump this alpha. We'll go up here to just white, and then we'll just kind of brush in. And he's going to be having a fairly, it looks like a fairly high collar leather little outfit. So not too worried about his neck. White. And again, I'm just going to just pepper in just a tiny bit of warmth in his forehead. Maybe yellow it up just a little, just a taste. And then through here, we'll do a little bit of ruddy. Again, just a touch. And then down here, we'll go to a little cooler. Ooh, too much. And back to white. Just layer it up. And then we'll go a little heavier with that blue in some of these areas. And in the nose, we'll go ahead and darken that up a little bit too, I think. So let's go real dark, and we'll just kind of paint in a little AO in there. Okay, so we've got this. Let's go ahead and do a quick save, and we'll throw this into our Hellraiser, and we'll get caught up. Oh yeah, so let's talk about that real quick. So we did a save, so we're good to go. And then if I want to hop out of, let's go into a cylinder, make Polymesh 3D. on here, if we, I'm going to hit B. I have a ZM slice already set up, so we can kind of go through here and just kind of slice through. So this is like my cut tool. And in fact, if you go slice all the way around, one of the features of this brush is that once you have a border of creasing, which is doing automatically, then you just tap in here, and this is set to polygroup fill. So neat. That can be found in your brush. What's it called? That is a ZModeler brush. So maybe way down here at the end, you can load these up, slice and topology brush. Those are just different ZModeler brushes set up to do different things. So, and then the regular topology brush. Helmet, yeah, I think there is a, I don't know if they've released it yet, but I think there is a new one out. Against artistic burnout. Oh man, I've been artistically burnt out for like, I don't know, maybe 9 years. I don't know, let me think about that one. That's a good question, I'm not sure. Was this head set up with UVs already matching the texture? I assume the head was pre-made. Yes, that was in the at the very beginning of the there's a multi-expression base mesh that I'm using that's already, so yeah, exactly, set up with the UVs. It can blend, it's got expression, so we'll use that to have a little bit more fun. What do you do when you encounter a frequent problem that causes ZBrush to crash? Usually I don't have too many problems with ZBrush crashing. What the culprit usually is some gremlin in my scene. So if it's really bad, what I'll do is I'll just export everything out as an FBX and then import it back in, or even as an OBJ, my problem mesh, and that can usually clean out any sort of weird stuff. You can also maybe try going in here to geometry, mesh integrity, fix mesh, if you got a really gnarly mesh you're using, but that's kind of what that's what I do to clean out my scenes. Thank you, 10. Cool, excellent. Yay, Bertram. Yeah, I might be doing more environment stuff. Unreal's real fun for environments since it's all kind of world building, just moving stuff around. It is Pinhead. So let's get to the Pinhead part. So, okay, how do I want to do this? Because I want to do some fancy stuff because it's fun to do, or at least explore functionality. Because at the end of the day, you could literally just go in here and be like, okay, Pinhead. Oops, we got to turn on Z-Add. We can go through here and just kind of dig in. Oops, that should be Z-Sub. Just kind of dig in where we want the pins, right? But I want to grow the pins with Nanomesh, I think. And then with his expression moving, when we move the expression, I want the pins to move as well. So let's do this. Let's take this head. I'm going to duplicate it off, and we're going to just kind of paint in. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to paint in where I want the guides to go. I'm going to put in the divots where I want the guides to go, and then I'm going to hop back in here, and I'm going to use the history project brush to brush in. Okay, so I can be a little sloppy. So let's turn off everything except for my duplicated head. And in fact, I don't even know if we need that much resolution, so I'm going to go in here to 5 and delete higher, just make things run a little bit more performant. And then, in fact, I don't even know if we need colorize on for this, so let's turn colorize off. So where are these pins going to go? Well, we do have a reference photo here, so we can just turn on perspective. And for his face, I'm going to go in here to RGB. Let's crank up our RGB intensity 100. Brush samples, we'll go in here and turn on spotlight projection. So when we go through here, we can paint on here. And we could have done this earlier too, and we could have sampled from this, but this is kind of a grainy photograph, so I don't know if I'd want to do that. And then there we go. So now if we want to see a little bit better, since we've switched to startup material, let's go in here to render fade opacity and turn that down a bit. And then now we have a pretty good idea of where our pins need to go. Now granted, when I drew this on, the midline didn't exactly match up, so I might need to fudge it a little bit. But let's go through here with our, you know what, instead of doing fade opacity, let's turn off perspective. Let's do this. Let's go in here to render fade opacity all the way down, and I'm just gonna have a white selected, RGB intensity down, color, fill object a couple times. And that'll kind of knock it back, and then I can go in here and paint on where I want this to go. So let's use, I don't know, dark red. And again, this isn't really a polypaint that I'm going to use necessarily. Although I could turn RGB on. Maybe I want to mask and then fill. Don't overthink it. Because I could deflate. I'm just going to move forward. So a lot of different ways we could attack this. Oh, and if you do have a stored history in place that you don't really need anymore, just Control Tap twice in the latest version of your history, whatever sculpt you're working on, I'll get rid of it. So we're going to put a line right through here. We're going to go one right down the middle of his face, and it kind of ends in his philtrum there. So we'll just kind of go here. Oops. We can actually hold down Shift and just, if we have lazy mouse off, it'll constrain you to a straight line. Lazy mouse, it'll snap to a straight line, which you could use that too. So going across here, and then, yeah, right across the bridge of his nose is right, underneath his eye, yep. And then down his face. This is generally right. I'm looking at the reference, and it looks like, yeah, this is basically how it goes. So it goes across his eyes. Let's do RGB intensity up. Maybe even throw in an alpha just to tighten this up a little bit. Here, ooh, that's a little bit, I mean, it's not too bad, but okay, so we're gonna go through here, and then right around here, and it kind of stops right through here. Okay, yeah, it's probably gonna get pretty tedious, so I'll do this as fast as I can. So it goes from his jawline up around his head, and then from the jawline out from the chin, it kind of does this. So my projected paint, you could project, you know, in Spotlight, you could, maybe a little bit lower. And then C to sample if you want to use this as an eraser. And then we'll go back to our dark red. So it's okay. Yeah, like I said, you could use multiple images to kind of grab what you need to, but then once it starts skewing or painting down, you might get less use out of that. So I'm just going to have to actually take C so I don't get confused. We'll just kind of brush this out. So it's good for this area, not so good for this area. You could get more reference photos and paint in all directions and then have a pretty good idea of where stuff needs to line up. Or, you know, just use your eyeballs. Okay, and then back to our dark red here. And then across the, this is a good angle. So basically just concentric little lines through here. And then, so we got one, maybe a little closer. And this is where lazy mouse turning it back on could come in handy. So again, just tap L on your keyboard and then I'll bring this up. And then you get a little bit of a smoother stroke here. And then we got one more. This kind of goes across the eye. I'm going to scoot this in just a little bit here. And then get this one. And then this one goes towards this part of the eye. And then we got this one. I'm going to scoot this one out just a little bit. Okay, then across the head. And then I'm just guessing on this part. I think it's a pretty safe guess. I think it just kind of goes around to the back of his head. Yeah, okay. And then ear, you know, we'll go one more back. Yoink. And again, this one goes straight back, so I'm going to tap L to go out of lazy radius, and I'm just going to hold down Shift and just pull across. And in fact, turn lazy radius back on. I was going to say you could maybe even get away with that, but since it's such an organic egg shape, I don't know if you really could. I'm going to smooth this one out a little bit. All right, and then sides of the face. We have this cuts across, and then right here. I think there's like one more that needs to happen actually. Let's go ahead and finish these up, and then we'll, this one comes across, this has one here, this one goes over the top of the lip and kind of ends at the bottom of the ear. And I'll pull this one down. And the bottom of the face just kind of goes here and then here. this one. Again, sorry, this is kind of a boring one. Okay, so C, and then we'll do a little bit of cleanup, turn off lazy mouse. We'll go through here and say, okay, just so I know which one I want to go with, go through here and make sure that I'm following the right path as I go down. Yeah. Okay. We'll go with this one. And I think I'm working off, I need to switch my hard, I'm working off not my SSD, so it's a little bit slower than I'd like. But too late to change that now. I could save it somewhere else. Maybe I will next save. And then this one, we'll just match the difference. So we'll say brush, move this down, and we'll just kind of cut through. Okay, so I think we got this pretty well plotted out of where we want our, let's scoot this over a little bit, sorry. Where we want our lines to go. So again, we're just being sloppy on this version, and then we can transfer nice detail to our actual really nicely sculpted head. We'll pretend that it is. And this one on the side of the head, yeah, this one needs to go all the way back here. So this is like our schematic. And then once we get this up, we're going to, again, dial back. Okay. So again, white selected, color, fill object, and just turn your RGB intensity down a bit. And we'll just tap fill object a couple times again, just to knock back the lines. We're just going to use those as guides, and then we'll be a little bit more careful about how we're going to divide this up. Let's go in here to our damn standard 02. Again, we'll turn Z-Ed back on because we were messing around with Polypaint earlier. Make a pretty big brush size, and this is where it's going to kind of slice into the mesh. Let's go in here to stroke. I think this one, the lazy mouse doesn't, I guess it helps a little bit. I think we'll use this. They're pretty thick cuts. Let me think about this. We could transfer this to a, because what I'm kind of thinking is when we're transferring this using the H-polish brush, or not the H-polish brush, okay, again, don't overthink it, Pav. We're going to go through here, and again, just one side to the other, we'll just start putting these lines in. Actually, before I do that, let's go in here to layers, and we'll make, on this one, we'll go ahead and just say bake all. We don't need all the expressions. I'm just saying make a new layer, and then down here, we'll also do a morph target, delete, and then store a morph target. So if I need to clean this up a little bit, I have a couple different options, or if I want to play around with the intensities, I can. So again, they're putting in our precise cuts, and again, as long as they're consistent, I can go into my layer later and change what needs to be changed. And in fact, now that I see these, now I'm actually gonna, on the fly, just kind of fudge this one a little higher. And then this one too, I'm gonna fudge it a little bit higher. And one thing you could try doing, now that I think about it, is now that we have a morph target stored, if you go in here to B, C, the chisel brushes, if you use these, you can actually, you can chisel across, and then you can chisel across, and it'll meet up. So that might actually come in handy when we go across. Let's see how that's going to work. This will work fine. So FYI, just for hard surface stuff, you can use the chisel brush and morph targets to get that functionality. In this case, I don't think we'll really need it. Okay. Sorry, this is like more finesse work than actual fun stuff, so I apologize. Usually I try to keep my live streams not too much finesse work because it just gets boring to watch. But bear with me, folks. We'll make this as quick as possible. Going through here. And this is the type of work too, so I'm using a tablet right now. If I'm doing like really precise like inking or line work, sometimes like a Cintiq type tablet might be a better choice than just a tablet like I'm using, but we'll make do. Okay, now this one might be tough. Hold down. We do have lazy mouse on, so I hold down shift and let go. It should go straight down. Yeah, we're in good shape. Yeah, that'll work. have those meet up. And then one more time, just straight down from the mouth. And we can maybe hand do this one. And these just kind of terminate just kind of generally in that direction. And then right here, and let's even that one up. And again, this is our, not garbage mesh, but we don't have to be too, we're going to transfer this detail. This is kind of our sloppy working mesh. We're going to transfer this detail over to our nice head. I'm using this as just kind of a, yeah, it kind of terminates right there. So we'll just stick it, boop, and boop. And then here. And if it goes over, it's not a huge deal. Again, we can clean it up with our morph brush. I think we got one more line, or two more lines. A little bit bigger brush here. Yeah, boy. This is where my non-steady hand starts rearing its ugly head. Okay. And, oh, good enough. Just keep moving, Mike. Boink. And then one more. Wow. Okay, so let's turn off our polypaint here. And because we stored a morph target, we can go BMO. Nope, did they change it? BMG. BMG is your morph brush. And then you can use this to kind of go through and just morph out any areas where you kind of overstepped your bounds. And that damn standard 02 will definitely overstep just a bit. Just the way that alpha and brush is set up. So we can go through and just kind of get rid of some of that. Like right here, where you didn't really want to go past that line. Well, you can just morph it back to the original sculpts and you're in good shape. And then the layers will come in handy. I did start one, right? Oh, damn. I never hit new layer. If you had hit new layer, and in fact, we can actually, we'll use our morph diff or our morph switch to store a layer when I'm done with this. If you forget, I think there's a way around it. But we can use that to change on the fly, like the depth that you did this. You can also use the contrast brush, so we'll talk about both those. For example, oops, I forgot to store a layer. Well, you can go down here to morph target, and I think we can switch, and it'll switch to normal face. So now let's say, here's a new layer. Oh, we did store a layer. It was just down one. Well, you can record a new layer. You can hit switch, and then you can turn off record, and now you can go back to the normal. So even if you forget, if you have a morph target, you can just do switch and then do your layer. So if you wanted to bump these out for some reason, or if you wanted to maybe be like, oh, those are a little too heavy, we want to dial it back a little bit, or if it's not heavy enough, you can go down here and you can really increase it. We'll go ahead and leave this at, we'll leave it at 1, and maybe we'll turn it down just a tiny bit. Yeah, okay. And then maybe we'll go in here with our, oops, okay, we'll say bake all. And then we can just say delete morph target, we're good. And then move brush, I'm just gonna scooch. Let's turn off topological. And I'm just going to maybe scoot some of these. Okay, so we've got this built in. And we want to transfer this detail over. You could, since these are in the same stack, we could just turn this head on and this head on, and then you could use the BZZ project brush on here. But I'm a little more partial to, again, this one is the one we have selected. I'm holding down Control and tap the latest point in history. So I'm going to store these points in history, and then go back to our working head here. Let's go into solo mode. And then we'll switch back to Skin Shader 4. And then I'm going to use BHR, which is history recall. Anything I'm calling out where you're like, oh, that's weird, tell me more about it. You can go to my YouTube channel and you can type, let's make this a little wider. We can say, history recall, what is it? And then all these movies on history recall brush. So you can deep dive into some of that functionality. Let's see here. Again, if I miss anything, I apologize. As far as like questions and stuff. Oh, spec on PC. I didn't think about that. Yeah, this PC I'm on right now is pretty hefty. It's a Threadripper 3970X with 128 gig of RAM. Okay, so or it's just a burnout, right? Do something else. If your environments go Photoshop and paint a landscape, ZBrush, make a character. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I don't know, maybe I either don't get burned out that much, or I'm in a constant state of burnout to the point where I don't really know the difference. So, and I'm all, you know what my thing is? I'm always doing something fairly different. And that's to my detriment, I think. I don't really focus. You know, if you look at my ArtStation page, it's mostly just a bunch of like little 2-hour projects where I'm just trying out little weird programs and stuff. And in fact, coming up soon, I'm going to have a bunch of Unreal stuff and some other stuff that has very little to do with ZBrush. So, or even making art really. So, I don't know, I guess maybe that keeps me unburnt out, or maybe burnt out in a different way. Is zero mesh necessary after you make a Boolean mesh, or just sculpt on the Boolean mesh and retopo after? It's fine. It kind of depends on what you want to do. I will say that if you're doing hard surface stuff, zero mesh is pretty good. If it's not too complex. Oh, Photoshop, why do you, or YouTube, why do you do that? Hard surface zero mesh. This new, if you're doing, again, if it's not too complex and you're just doing Boolean stuff, we've done this before too on my channel. I want to say, God, I think maybe two, let's go here, YouTube. Again, YouTube playlist, look for the big blue genie. And then I think it was just 2 ago. Oh yeah, it was a scarecrow in here somewhere. And usually what I'll do is I'll put chapters in here so you can kind of just hover over these. Crow skull, yeah, this one. So we went through and made this object and then zero meshed it. Shh, be quiet, Mike. You know, and this is not complex, right? But even zero meshing this, you know, with the booleans and stuff, it gives you a pretty good, you know what? So either hard surface zero mesh is something you can check out, or this point right here, share, start at, copy. You can check that out. I'll post it in here in just a second when I get to the bottom. When you're working on something important, don't open up ArtStation. Yeah, I could see that. Yes, and then the hockey mask too. We absolutely, thank you, 512. Unreal Engine 5, that's what I've been doing a lot of lately. How can I render a blurred outline with BPR filters? I might have to look at that one. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Yeah, I hear you. Is there a way to continue a stroke with damn standard so that it stays at the same depth as the previous stroke so you get nice continuous lines without obvious joints? Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit because that does come in handy. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick save, which on your keyboard is 9, and that's going to save my entire session just in case. And then I'm going to hop over to a cylinder, make Polymesh 3D, hit Control D a bunch of times, and then start at material. So, for example, kind of like what we talked about, let's go in here to morph target, store morph target, damn standard brush. So we're cutting through here, and then we can cut across here. And this brush, the chisel brush, is maybe more obvious. However, if we go through here, let's make sure we have stroke lazy mouse on. Let's crank the lazy radius up a little bit. And in here, there is a not curve, lazy snap. So there's a lazy snap here. If we turn this up, that will allow you to start from this point and it'll snap to where you stopped. However, like you said, you know, if you're going thick to thin and then thick to thin, it'll lazy snap exactly to where, you know, your last brush stroke was, or the start of it. But you may need to go in here to tablet and pressure. It says use global settings, turn that off, and then your Z intensity and your size, you can max this out. So now it'll act more like a mouse, and that way it's more consistent. So I'm pressing, and so here's me pressing hard, and then here's me pressing light. It's the exact same. So you can use that, but we'll switch this over to global settings and put that back to normal. If your brushes get weird, you can also go in here to brush. Very down here at the very bottom, we can just reset all brushes. And that'll reset all your brushes. So we'll go back here, and then we'll go back to our head here. Now, in case you forgot, we stored these points in history just by control clicking the latest point right here, and then we're going to go back to our head and we're going to use BHR, the history recall brush. It doesn't work great with X symmetry turned on because it wants to grab, it's camera based, so if you go to the side and then you grab from the other side where mesh is, it's going to pull it through your mesh. So we'll leave that off, and also it'll do RGB as well. So if you wanted to, actually, let's just do it. If we wanted to say, okay, let's go in here and say maybe some dark red, and then say color, fill object. And again, oops, we need to turn that up. And in fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go in here to edit, delete older, undo history. So we're way back here. I'm going to say again, color, fill object, RGB intensity at 100. And then control tab this point in history, and then we'll go back to our head here. And then if I have history recall with RGB turned on, and Z turned on, it will actually go through and project not only the detail, but also the RGB. In this case, I'd have to be very careful about like, well, let me find exactly where that line is, and that's going to be really difficult to do. You could store a layer and then brush it back. I'm just going to paint it. I'm not going to worry about that. So I'm going to turn RGB off in this case. I'm just going to go around, and I'm going to, again, it's camera based, so I'm going to go through and project the sculpt from my other mesh through here, and if I hold down shift, I'm going to turn off RGB, so if I can just smooth out the geometry changes, but not touch my poly paint. So again, hold down shift, the intensity, okay, good. And we'll just go through here, and we're just going to transfer it. Now, you didn't have to do this. You could have literally just sculpted right on here and been just fine, but I like to show a little bit more functionality, and it allows me to maybe be a little looser and figure things out a little more without being super destructive on something else, on another mesh, and then just transfer that over to a little more controlled or refined mesh here. So we'll go through here, and again, we're just going to transfer. We'll put on our Bob Ross voice, and we'll just do a happy little transfer. Let me see if I go in here. Let's turn on backface masking. Auto masking backface mask. Just in case this is wanting to like pull through to the mouth bag or something, I usually turn on backface masking for a lot of my brushes, just in case. And this is where I wish I had like a text to voice. Oh, I was going to change this. Hold on. Paste. That was what I was going to paste. When I do that, it shoots me down to the bottom of the chat, and then I lose my spot. So again, if I miss something, I apologize. I just blah, blah, blah. Question, I use split screen like Nanomesh functionality without sync viewport rotation. Can I use split screen? Oh, Nanomesh functionality without the sync viewport rotation. That's a good question. Can you? Transform, right, is where split screen is. Yeah, split screen. We gotta go out of solo mode. Let's turn that off. We can actually let's go to transform, split screen of 1, and then we want to have something else over here. Honestly, I don't think you can. If you were cool at Z scripting, you might be able to figure out something cool to do with that. I don't know. I don't know that split screen has that much functionality. Oh, an alternative too, because we have both these showing, again, you could use BZP, which is Z Project Brush. The only problem with that is, that's not a problem, but you have to hold down Alt and let go of Alt to like sculpt in and sculpt out, whereas the History Project Brush does both. It goes in and out. You're going to see like here it's pulling out and pushing in at the same time. So it's a little bit more robusto, in my opinion. Anyway, we'll do this a little faster. Come on. Blah, blah, blah. Talk, talk, talk. Let's just get these carved onto his head here. And we turn colorize off on here, but if we turn it back, you're gonna see we didn't lose our poly paint, so we're in good shape. We're just transferring sculpted detail from a working mesh to our, again, nicer, more controlled mesh. Not totally necessary. Just if you want to skip the fancy stuff, just sculpt right on it. Just be more careful than I am. And if you wanted to have this to be symmetrical, you could do one side and then use Smart. Under your deformation menu, there's a Smart Resim that you can mask the half you like and then resim it over. But in this case, I don't mind a little asymmetry. And honestly, I don't want to mess with the vert positions for my multi-expression base mesh. So I'm going to not do that. But if you want to, by all means, feel free. So now we have the positions in, and then I'm going to go through and I'm going to put in some nanomesh squares. Oh, you know what? I missed one. That's okay. We'll put it in. I missed a line through his head. And this is where you need to be careful, because again, it is camera based. So if you're going to go through here, make sure you're rotating your camera around and using a small brush in these types of tricky areas to make sure you're not doing something weird with your geo. Okay, like magic. And then last little one here. Again, be careful around those noses using your camera. And then we need one more through here, so I'm going to go into my, oops, PHR. Let's finish this side out, sorry. Same thing, be careful around the ears, because that camera projection will get you. And then Dam Standard 02, and I'm just going to cut across this part of the face. It goes right over this part of the nose here. So very carefully, and again, store a morph target if you want. Actually, let's turn on X symmetry. All right, now the pins. We have a null star just sitting out. Let's go out of solo mode and turn on transparency. And this one here, I don't know if we really need this one anymore. We can keep it around, but get rid of it. We have a star, just a null star sitting in here with X symmetry turned on, so we can use this to our advantage. We have this showing, but it obviously has subdivision history on it. So let's go in here to, I have a custom brush with just a plane with no lines on it, so I can go through here. I'm gonna hold down as I'm drawing out. Oops, select the star. So as I'm drawing out, I'm gonna hold down Control, and it's gonna snap to my brush size. I just want to make these consistent, and the depth that's embedded is totally fine. So again, we're just gonna go through here and just on every one of these. Let's turn off ghost transparency. I just want a little bit of transparency here, just so I can see. Actually, it's probably not going to let me draw on there, is it? You know what? Let's do this, because it doesn't matter, because it is nanomesh. I can control the depth later. So let's go in here to our depth. I just need to see them a little bit better. I'm going to embed this. I'm going to raise this up just a little bit. You can change the number or just drag it up. And then as I drag this out, okay, now we can see a little bit better where these are going. Again, I'm not overly concerned about... actually, I do want to... Sorry, this is getting so nitpicky, but I need consistency. So again, as I'm dragging it out, I'm not concerned about rotation. I'm just concerned about consistent size. And that's where I'm dragging it out, and then I'm holding down Control, and that's going to snap it all to the same size. So I'm just going to put where we want pins to go. I'm just going to put a little, think of it as a like a little marker or a little tag, a little geo tag. And we're going to use Nanomesh to put in our pins. think this will work. Never actually done it, but. And you know what I should have done, now that I think about it, is I should have kept that other head. And then when I was painting, or just had a painted version, or I could morph it back. So I just had the painted version. That way I wouldn't have to deal with this thing trying to grab maybe an incorrect surface normal. Because I think now that I do this, I think that's going to be a problem, but we'll see. I might have to backtrack a little bit, but. Oh, and we were going to talk about the, yeah, I think this is going to be a problem. Let's do a quick test. Let's make a pin. The pins just look like nails. So let's go out of edit mode. Control N. Let's do a quick save. Let's get a drink. Damn standard should be loaded by ZBrush by default. Just do B and then D. Whoops. Control N. Let's go into a cylinder here. Let's go into initialize. Let's just do like maybe 12, 4. Make Polymesh 3D. We'll scale this down. This will be the top of the pin, and we can always adjust this on the fly. I know it's going to be kind of difficult to gauge how well this is working, but I'm going to go through here. We're going to say inset flat island, and we'll do a legacy, and I'm just going to inset this here just to kind of hold those edges. And then on the bottom here, I'm going to say inset polygroup island. I'm going to pull in here, and then we'll say Q mesh, again, polygroup island, and we'll just pull this down. So this will be our pin. If we want to make that a little longer, we can just unmask in Gizmo. Yeah, looks like it might be actually, we'll give ourselves some wiggle room here. Okay, so this is our pin. If we want to, we can go ahead and just run a crease tolerance dynamic, crease level of 2, smooth side of a 3, and in fact, maybe I would even want to put in like an inset polygroup island on this one. Just to, again, control those edges there, and something like that. And if this doesn't need to be this pronounced, we can mask just this area. I'm going to hold down Alt, and then we're going to say, again, just hold down Alt. Let's go to Unmesh Mesh Center. If you hold down Alt, you can scale it in like this, but it's grabbing. We want to do, let's go in here to mask circle. I want to mask just this part here. And then now when I hold down Alt, I can just scale along that axis here. So we can scale that in just a little bit. Okay, again, we can make changes to this if we want. So we'll do Shift D. I'm going to go to the top. We're going to say B, create insert mesh new. And then now we can just pull out pins, right? But we're going to use this as a nano mesh. So we're going to say with this new insert mesh brush selected, we're going to go in here to brush, create nano mesh brush from that brush. So now if we go back here to our tags, we can go through here and we can say insert nano mesh polygroup ball. And then as we pull this out, or instead, not polygroup ball, all polygons, we pull this out, then our nails will go through the head, and then we can go through here and say, hey, give me my nanomesh properties, and then you can go through here and you can change the size and stuff like that. And then we can make variances. So right now, it's not terrible. The heads might be a little big, but we can change that on the fly. These ones are a little problematic, but we can rotate those out in just a second. So like I said, might be easier to work on a less contrasty version of this, which we could do, but I think it's going to work okay. So we'll go ahead and turn Nanomesh off, and we'll go back to oh crap, my plane, and then I need to again make this the right size, which is somewhere around there, just again so they're all consistent. But here's the other thing too. While I'm doing this, I'm going to go into solo mode. We're still attaching it to this star. I'm going to hold down Control Shift, grab a little piece of the star, Control Shift A, delete hidden, and let's, again, I should have done this. Let's duplicate this off. I wonder if we have, we'll say 5, delete higher, layers, bake all, Go into solo mode, turn off polyframe. Okay, sorry. Thank you. Alt S, and then we'll go in here to shift and smooth out this one. So I can know where the lines are, but it's not gonna be, like I said, so contrasty. Speaking of contrast brush, let's go to BC. You can go in here to, where is it? Contrast delta, contrast target, either one of those. You can go through here and you can kind of spot contrast. And in fact, if you hold down Alt, it'll actually do the opposite of contrast. It'll smooth it out. So I don't know, you can maybe use that if you'd like, but I'm just gonna go in here and smooth. So we'll use this as our version of our head to kind of put our, and again, if I could snap this back and just go to the one where I poly painted, that's what I would do. If I was doing a tutorial for this, that's where I would like backtrack and then go like, hey, if you're gonna do a Hellraiser head, do it in this order and you'll be real smart. But while you're live streaming, it ends up being more like, hey, I messed up and now I look real stupid, but we'll get it done. So again, one more time, Alt-E-M is my custom menu, and then this one I just have a plane. I pick a size, doesn't really matter, as long as they're all consistent, and then go back to our, boy, it likes to yell. Okay, stop yelling. Go back to our star here, and then now I can go through here, and again, just hold down Control and put those pins in, and this might be a little more forgiving. And it's not the end of the world if they're not perfect, because we can always move these around later. Basically, each one of these planes is going to indicate where a pin is going to go, and then if you move the pin around, or the plane around, it'll move the pin. So again, just trying to move fast. I don't have any music playing, so you're just going to hear my stomach growling on mic. So many pins though. And this is where the polypaint really would have come in handy. Because again, I could use the surface normal of the head, which would be fairly regular, and then I can know exactly where these are going to go. Right now I have a smooth version, and I'm kind of guessing, so not great. Again, do your own version of this, but kind of do as I say, not as I do. Save yourself some headache. This one will go across here. This one goes right on the point of the nose there, and then right here in the middle of the face. And then we got another one. It looks like the ones that are closest to his lips don't have one, but down here along the chin, there is one. And then right here. And you know what? Just remind me, draw size is 15.3856. Right here, there's a pin. You know why I think he didn't have a ton of expressions is because with all these prosthetics on, I wonder if he couldn't really pull, he kind of had to look neutral most of the time. That might have dictated the acting style. I don't know, I'm just guessing. Bottom of the lips, yeah, okay, so we've got our pin layout here. So I'm gonna go into solo mode. We have the star sitting here, just Control Shift tap the star. This time we're gonna do a split hidden. Then we have our pin layout. We do still have our brush that we made, the ZModeler brush with the pin loaded. So again, hover over a face, insert nanomesh, all polygons. You can hit Control W, make them all one polygroup, and then you can do insert nanomesh polygroup all. Either one's fine. And then again, if we go in here and we pull, Now we've got pins on there. Let's go down here to our Nanomesh properties. And we can say show placement off. So that way it looks like it's just going out of his head, and then we'll swap his head out. We'll take this one off and then put this one back on. And then we can, again, we can control the placement or the rotation on these. I'm just trying to get, number one, make sure we have pins where we need them. If we need to, we can actually go in here. We'll turn show placement back on, and I can say, you know what, I need another pin. So I'm going to hold down Control Alt and make a copy of this one. We're just going to Control drag this out, and that will again give us a pin where we need. And again, we'll turn show placement off, and then I can use this as just a way to kind of place these. So we got a little extra one there. I think we're looking good. And then now if we want to make changes to all of these at the same time, because, you know, maybe you want them longer or not quite embedded, this is where Nanomesh comes in handy. So if you had placed all these and then you're like, or the art director or whoever, you're like, oh, I made a mistake, or I want these to be a certain way. Now you can go in here and you can say, well, I want them to be out more. So we can go down here to our offset, our Z offset, and we can pull those in and out all at the same time. And it looks like, from my reference, like they're kind of way out there. Let's go ahead and snap back to our camera view, turn on perspective. And then we'll say Z offset, about here-ish, maybe. And then if we have a problem with any one of these pins where it's like, well, actually it looks like they're less nail-like and more, the heads aren't as pronounced, well, that's no problem. We can go in here, again, across all of them, go into Edit Mesh, and now as we make changes to this, it'll update on the fly on all our nanomeshes. So again, let's go to this angle, we'll say Mask Circle, we'll mask this out. Awesome, thank you. I hit W, go to Unmask Mesh Center, and then again, oops, let's turn off X, go to Unmask Mesh Center, and then if we hold down Alt, again, we can rotate, or not rotate, we can scale this down on the fly, so we can make these a little less pronounced in that direction. However, it looks like they kind of get rounded out a little bit. So one thing we can do is we can say, let's go in here to Insert Single Edge, pull down Alt, and then in fact, let's go in here to Delete Flat Island, and we'll just get rid of this, and then we'll cap it, Close Convex Hole, and then we just pull this up and then kind of round it off a little bit. Let's make this all one polygroup there. There we go. So now we've got little changes to our pins, and if this is too thick, there is a, underneath your Nanomesh properties, if we go out of Edit Mesh, you can change the width, length, and height on the fly, but I think I prefer to go in here to Edit Mesh in this instance. Again, hold down Control. We're going to mask just the peg part of it. Unmask W. Go to, that's fine, we can just leave that where it is. I'm going to hold down Alt, and we're just going to thin it out. Actually, this probably needs to go down a little bit. Hold down Alt and just put the pivot there. And then again, Alt to kind of scale along that axis there. Oh, sorry, gotta mask that part out, sorry. There you go, so you can see it thinning out over here on the fly. And then Control tap to unmask, and maybe I want to thin this out a little bit too. Yeah, something like that. Go out of Edit Mesh, unmask. And okay, we're in good shape. So back to our head. This is our good one. This is our smooth one, which we don't need anymore. Let's go back here. Let's turn on our Polypaint. Here, let's go back to Skin Shader 4, and let's put in our lines. Again, just more finesse work. I apologize. In this case, okay, let's go back to Dam Standard. Pretty small brush size. We'll do maybe start with like a lighter red, maybe. And then again, go in here, turn on RGB, turn off Z intensity, maybe drop the Z intensity down just a tad. And then we can go through here and just kind of paint in lines. One thing we can try to do is we can go in here, try to like maybe do a masking, oh boy, peaks and valleys, or mask by cavity. And then Control tap to invert that. And I'm going to go out of view mask mode. Let's go into just our standard brush and see if we can't just RGB on. Use this to our advantage just to kind of quickly. It's okay. I hate mask by cavity. I don't hate it, but let's turn on show mask again. it just gets so crunchy and aliased. Let's go up here to Mask Adjust. And the mask profile I'm going to keep the same. The blur, I'm just going to have it at 2, and I'm just going to keep hitting Mask Apply, and then we'll turn off View Mask. That might get rid of some of the harshness of those edges. And let's turn off L for lazy radius, and I'm just going to go through here, and this will just kind of be a quick first pass of like, hey, just in my cavities, give me some red. And then we'll do another pass where we kind of hand do it, and that might get rid of some of that crunchy look, that aliased kind of crunchy look. And then just be careful around here. And while you're doing this, you could be painting and sculpting at the same time. Maybe not this necessarily, but when you go in and you cut these lines in, if you wanted to move real fast, you could just cut them in and paint at the same time. So while you're cutting in, you're also painting red. If you got a steadier hand than me, that is totally valid. And again, we're using a mask right now. I just have it turned off. I just don't want to see it while I'm painting, so just so you don't get confused and think I'm somehow really amazing with the standard brush. There's a mask there. And again, it's picking up some of that. You could go into Mask Adjust and change that curve, and that'll tighten it up to just the crevices. But I think it's working out fine. And you could do all of your color on a layer as well. But I don't know. I think we've got enough layers on this guy. So this will be a good enough baseline for our red parts. And I'm going to do one quick pass with the damn standard brush. Oh, speaking of the damn standard, so again, it was BD. You should have the damn standard here. The damn standard 02, you'll just have to look it up online. I think there's a Gumroad page from Damien who has that somewhere. You can just download it. And then if you want to make your own custom brushes, I do have some brush stuff on my channel if you want to check that out. Like this brush right here, you know, that I use all these different shapes. Those are just custom IMM brushes, so just look that up. Oops. We were just using the standard brush, sorry. And then again, be careful around that crevice because it's going to want to pick it up on the fold there. Okay, so again, back to Damien standard brush, RGB up. It's brush size pretty small, and just really quickly we're going to go through and just, again, this one you can hold down Shift. Oops. Focal shift -14. Yeah, I guess it's okay. It is a little fuzzy, but that's actually okay. In the reference, it is kind of a broad, surprisingly broad cuts. So, you know what I could have done now that I think about it? I could have taken the original smooth version of the head and then done a cavity mask and then painted in the lines on a duplicate. And then I could have transferred just the RGB information to the smooth version of the head, and that would have given me the polypaint that I was looking for to put my pinhead guides on. Speaking of the pinhead guides, if any of those look like they're not rotated the right way, and I think there was a few that weren't, literally just go in and rotate that one plane, and that'll give you what you need. Because again, that plane, the pins are just instances, or nanomesh is just instances assigned to a face of an object. So if you rotate the object or move that object, then the instance will follow. So you can just again use that as a control and then fine tune the individual across multiple. Okay, again, more finesse work on this damn character. All finesse, and I'm not a Wayne Gretzky type. I'm not a finesse player, so this is where things get a little boring, and I apologize. All right, and around. And looking at the reference, you could go through and you could highlight, like, you know, you do the peaks and valleys, your cavity. You could go through and like give a little bump to the edges just to kind of, I don't know, if you're really going to cut somebody's skin, there's probably going to be some interesting is probably not the right word, but some stuff that happens around the skin itself that you could dial in for more realism. I don't know that we need to go that far. In fact, I'm not even sure. I don't know. Will YouTube have a problem with this? Because technically it's kind of gruesome. Guess we'll find out, huh? And just a little more, and then we'll double check the pins, and then we'll set up. Again, I'm doing. This guy's taking a little bit longer than I thought it would. Again, because it's so much just work. Okay, let's switch back over here. And let's get some coffee in me before I really go off the deep end. Okay. Damn center brushes, yes. Yes. Hellraiser. Heaps of the pinhead cuts went slightly past the lines. Yeah, I agree. Even if it's like Gash says, doesn't have to be perfect. Is zero mesh necessary after you make a Boolean mesh? Oh yeah, we talked about that. Cool, thank you, David. Certain affinity. Yes, I am still at certain affinity. Okay, cool. Thanks for stopping by, Bertram. I recommend you be a speaker at our Academy's M3 conference. Send you an email for any details. Oh shoot, I will double check that. I will say, sorry if I missed that. I'll have to go back and look for that. Cool, awesome, thank you very much. Way to modify the pop-up menu space keywords items on my interface. That I don't know. Modifying this, I'm not sure off the top of my head. Somebody smarter than me would have to tell you that one. Masking, how do I deactivate pin pressure with pin masking? I cannot find a way. It seems is not about the pin intensity. Deactivate pin pressure with pin masking. So we have masking here and mask pin, and it's like, okay, so we don't want pin pressure. I think, just like we did earlier with our damn sander brush, we hold down control. Make sure you hold down control so when you're making changes, it's the masking brush you're changing. Go in here to tablet pressure, take the Z intensity and just crank this up with control held down. So now when you go on mask, crank this up, global settings, no. It doesn't work. I don't know then. Mask intensity. Focal shift. I mean, I guess what you could do is you could just mask what you need to, and then I think there's some masking stuff you can do, like mask boost. You can boost the mask, and that'll kind of then max the intensity out. Yeah, it's weird. Never come across that. Sorry about that. Why is sculpting so hard? That's a good question. Well, for some people it's not. For me, it is. Other people, I guess it's just practice, right? I don't do a ton of sculpting. Yes, I work for Certain Affinity Game Studio. Oh, you know what? On masking, RGB, I think, controls the intensity there. So in this case, this is sculpt intensity. RGB intensity is the one we want to change. So, okay, thank you for shouting that out. So in this one, if we take this and crank it up with our control held down and then mask, there we go. That is a way to either change the RGB or the intensity fall off, or just get rid of it completely. It's RGB on mask, not sculpt. Thank you, Bernardo. There's a way to keep the focal shift -100 of the gizmo all the time. So does the Not for every, what you could do is like for your standard brush, you always want the focus shift to be negative 100, and then for your clay brush, you always want the focus shift to be negative 100. Set it to that, and then go in here to brush, save as, and you're going to save that into, now be careful when you do this, ZBrush 2022 Z data brush presets. I would say take this brush presets, copy paste, so you have a copy to go back to. And then under brush presets, if you save over these are your default brushes. So any changes to your brushes you make, save over them and then restart ZBrush. And then your, for example, your clay brush should have focus shift, or your standard brush or whatever you want focus shift at negative 100. It'll keep that for you by default. Again, be careful if you're doing that. Just a few more things to change here. So we're going to go through here and we're going to just kind of boost these little areas here real quick. Boost it up, boost it up. And again, you could have played with the mask settings, but again, that might just be too regular. So going in here and just kind of hand doing it, it does introduce a little bit of irregularity, but when you're talking about like Hellraiser and flesh cutting, a little irregularity is not bad. It's not a bad thing. If it's too regular, it might end up looking weirder, you know what I mean? So we'll just go ahead and, I don't know, boost it a little bit. All right, so we got this, we got this, and we got this, and we got this. And then we'll put our pins back on here. Boop. These are our nanomeshes, remember? And then if anything's looking weird, we can change it. For example, if we go in here to our nanomesh properties and we say, we need to select our pins there. Nanomesh properties, do show placement back on, and then like right here next to the nose, we can go to solo mode, hold down Control Alt, and I'm just going to unmask this one here. W, just tap on that plane, and again, however that plane moves is where the pin's going to move. So we'll just kind of rotate that out a little bit, and then again we'll turn, and in fact you can turn show placement off, and again you still have the plane selected, so you can just individually move those pins around. But everything else looks fine, good enough. Some of these could probably get scooted around. In fact, what you could do is take your move brush, drop it down to size of 1. Oops. Okay, so show placement is, I'll turn it on just so we can show what we're doing. Move brush down to 1, and then on your move brush options, if you have auto masking topological turned on, if your brush size is 1, it'll just, standard brush, move brush, topological turned on, draw size of 1. I think you can just grab one of these by themselves. So we can turn off show placement, and as long as you have, you're going through and you're just kind of selecting just the plane for that one. It's going to be kind of hard to tell with some of these when they're close together. There we go. So you can kind of individually move these fairly quickly into place using that trick. And again, that was mostly from me having to smooth down. Again, I should have planned this out a little bit in my head. Order of operations is important. And this is like when you're doing a tutorial for online, you can be a little bit, you can come across as a little bit smarter because you can go through the process once and be like, oh boy, that was a disaster. Let's not do that. And then you get your order of operations correct. And then you're in good shape. Whereas again, if you're just kind of winging it on a live stream, well, you got to just kind of roll with the punches. Not a deal breaker, but okay. So let's go ahead and turn everything else back on, and let's do one more thing. It's going to be again another kind of tedious thing. Okay, first of all, those eyes need to be changed. So Alt tap the eyes, W go to Unmatched Mesh Center. I'm going to rotate those in just a little bit, and we'll scoot it up. Move it in just a tad. Okay, so we have this, and in fact, now that I see the eyes on, I think I need to go back in here, and we're just going to do a little bit of red painting, standard brush, RGB turned down a little bit. I'm going to control tap this point in history twice just to get rid of that stored history, and just on the inside of the eye, I'm going to put in just a tiny bit of red. Just to kind of sell that a little more. Okay, now we still have expressions on here. The problem is if we go down here to, for example, you know what, and let's also turn back on our displacement map just for fun. And the texture map will swap back out to texture new from Polypaint. Boom, boom, boom. And in fact, go to UV map. Let's crank this up to like 4096 so we get a little bit more resolution. New from Polypaint. There we go. So now we got a little bit more detail. Displacement map's a little heavy, so 0.004 maybe. Okay, so, oh yeah, we still have expressions. So we're gonna go into our layers. Here, and if I want to do like we were doing a snarl, so if I take this, and you can just dial it in, so we'll tap here to activate it maybe, and then we'll just kind of crank this up so we can kind of have him doing a face, but you see the pins aren't going to move. So for every one of the, not for every one, but for some of these expressions, we can move the pins around and store those on a layer so that as we do a facial expression, the pins will move in place. So let's pick, ooh, anger, pain. That's a good Hellraiser one, right? Boy, he really squints those eyes on that one. I wonder if I can, let's see, anger, pain, long face, eyes. So these are separated out. Snarl, facts, happy, sad. You know what? What's fear look like on this dude? And now that we have the fear open, let's go into the tongue, and let's scooch that back just a bit. In fact, the tongue we probably don't even need. I don't know if we're going to do a jaw open. Yeah. So back to the face here. We'll go to the layers, and we'll say, okay, we'll do anger and pain. I think that's a good one. So with anger and pain set at 1. You know, it's funny to me. There's something about that. Let's try happy. You know what? Let's cast against type. Maybe this is a blooper reel. Yeah. Oh, that's even creepier. You know what? I like that. So let's, again, let's go to the teeth real quick and just place those a little bit better. All right, so we've got a happy expression, and we want our pins to also follow along. So again, the pins are just Nanomesh placement planes, and we can move those around. First, though, we're going to have those selected, and then we're going to go in here to our layers. We're going to make a new layer, and we'll name this whatever. But again, using we have X symmetry turned on, so it shouldn't take too long. Move brush, draw size down to 1, topological. We're going to move these pins into place so they follow. This one would go here. This one would go down a bit. And it's not, I don't think it's going to touch the back of his head, so we don't need to worry about those. It's just the front of the head where this is going to go. And again, you can do this for as many expressions as you'd like. So we can just kind of wiggle these around a little bit. Let's go from the middle out. So kind of like when you're buttoning your shirt, you don't want to accidentally, oh, this one's going to get a little weird, isn't it? And if it does get a little too much, honestly, what I should have done is done all polygons. So if I made a polygroup change, it wouldn't matter, because then I could just do auto groups and then move them around individually. As it is, I'm going to have to do a little bit of a slower process, which is underneath. Oh my God, where am I at? Nanomesh. Again, turn on show placement here, just so I can go in here manually and say, okay, I just need this individual one. Use the gizmo this time to kind of go through and be like, hey man, you gotta go here. Like so, and then again, you can rotate down or whatever. So something might be a little more ornery. This one I have a feeling is going to be. And here's another thing too. You can do Control Shift, grab a little piece of one, Control Shift A, and that's just going to show that one. So it's the same type of deal as masking, and then Control Shift Tab to bring everything else back. Although this one actually goes up here. And then this one, let's see, let's go back to our move brush and see if we can't. Sorry, move brush, geez. Yeah, it's still kind of being a... Move is okay for like slight tweaks, but it looks like Gizmo is going to be our best bet for these big monster moves here. And then again, back to our move brush. So it keeps wanting to like slide in a little bit. Okay, we'll turn off show placement. And just real quick, just a few more tweaks here. Alrighty. So that was all done on a layer, so we'll turn off record. So now, I wish there was a way to link expressions, but we'll just have to do it separately. So for example, if I go back down to layer 0, and then we go back to, you know what, we'll go ahead and say rename this one to happy. So those are our happy pins. And then we'll go back down to our face, and we have happy dialed into 1. We'll put this back down to 0. And now we have, you know, we're back to where we started. Hellraiser. So now, how much time we got left? Yeah, we got enough time. So let's go and turn our shirt back on, or did we delete it? No, we still have it. So we kind of have a shirt going, but he's got this really tight kind of jackety shirt. So let's go ahead and turn off colorize for all this. And let's go in here to startup material here. And let's go into maybe trim dynamic. And I'm going to go ahead and keep, I'm going to go ahead and keep the shirt, but I'm going to just kind of trim it down. We're going to turn this into a little bit more of a leathery look here. So we're going to kind of, and I think it's also, he's got some kind of some holes cut in and some other weird stuff happening. It's a weird movie. It's a good movie. The first Hellraiser is really interesting, really good, I think. It's weird too. It's weird. They're called Cenobites, I think. Cenobites? Cenobites? And I don't know if he's got an actual name. I probably could Wikipedia it. I think Pinhead's his nickname. I don't think that's like, hey, it's Steve Pinhead. I think it's probably something more, what's the word? Magical. We're going to go through here, and we're going to give him that high collar. And again, we're playing it fast and loose. If you want to watch the Jason Voorhees, Mike Myers one, we did spend a little bit more time, you know, doing, again, failing at making a collar. I eventually got there. Yeah, this will work. And this boy goes right up. Boom. Like way up. He's got a turtleneck. So we'll go ahead and put this around here. Let's make sure dynamics off. Good. Shift to smooth, re-Dynamesh. It's Dynamesh at a slightly lower resolution. We don't need a ton of resolution for this. We're just blocking out here. And I'm going to squeeze this in so it's a little more form-fitting. And then clay brush or clay buildup, just to kind of go through and make sure this is on the up and up. And do I have a better shot of kind of what's going on here? We could actually use a little bit of cloth. In fact, since it is kind of separate, if we did want to play a little bit more specifically with cloth in this area, we could. Let's go into solo mode, turn on polyframe here. I'm going to hold down control. We're going to turn on backface masking. I'm going to very quickly just say, hey, I want to play with cloth brushes with this. Cloth brushes, I want a little bit more flexibility than Dynamesh is going to allow, which is totally fine because this is going to be a natural seam anyways. So we'll hold down Control Alt and tap. I'm going to do a quick edge loop mask border that's under your, I don't know, figure it out. I'm going to do a, yeah, okay, I'm going to take this one, I'm going to say split hidden, and then back down on our regular, sure, I shouldn't say that. Don't figure it out. It's underneath geometry, edge loop mask border. Go in here, and I'm going to say auto groups, and then we're going to take this one, geometry modified topology, delete hidden. You can close holes, mirror and weld if you want to, but also just control dragging will do that for you, since that's a Dynamesh. Now I've got two separate meshes. Now this one, I'm going to do a quick zero mesh half, depth size down to 0. It's geometry zero mesh is what you're looking for, and just keep hitting that. Just so we have a little more flexibility with our subdivision history. In fact, if we want to smooth this out a little bit, we can go in here to polish by features under your deformation menu, and then zero mesh half. All right, so now we have fewer, if you're Stannis Baratheon, points to mess around with. So we're going to kind of just smooth this out here. And then we got one little issue here. It's easy enough to fix. Just do a quick, mirror and weld, geometry modify topology, mirror and weld. I'm going to do a quick split on this edge here. So we'll say split edge right, right here. And then we'll bridge 2 points across. There we go. And I'm just going to collapse this edge. So a little bit of cleanup work, no big deal. And again, on cloth, I usually like to do a cap. I don't know, it's just easier for me to work with. So close convex hole, top and bottom, and then Control Shift Tap and Control W, and then I'm just going to do a quick. Let's do this. Let's do insert multiple edge loops, keep polygroup, and we're just going to insert some just to kind of catch those edges. So now we have a lower res mesh for his turtleneck, and that'll kind of sit nicely on there. In fact, let's do this. Let's do a crease level of 2, let's say smooth subdiv of 3, and then we'll crease PG just to kind of hold those edges a little bit. So we've got his turtleneck on here, and now we want to use our cloth brushes. The first thing I would do is just maybe kind of dial in, like, let's turn on Z Ed for Z intensity here for our standard brush. Just maybe dial in first, like where you might want to see some wrinkles happen. Again, let's turn on lazy radius here just a little bit. So just kind of indicating, and this is dynamic is turned on. As we turn dynamic off, this is actually the sculpting we're doing. Let's do dynamic apply. So we have real geometry here. So we just added real subdivisions here. And now you can go through and just kind of like dial in like, oh, you know, there might be some wrinkles here and some wrinkles here. And then once you've done that, you can go in here to, so for example, BC brush cloth. These have cloth stuff built in, and I'll show you where that is in just a second. So for example, a cloth hook. So I can go through here, and if I move this around, you see, oh my gosh, cloth hook. Well, these wrinkles are too fine. You can go in here to your dynamics menu, and you can change your firmness up, or you can drop your resolution down, and that'll give you bigger wrinkles. Now, this is really pulling it around. I need to move this to a faster hard drive. This project is on my slow hard drive on this machine. I got a new machine's coming. So we can go in here to thick skin. You can turn that on, and that'll limit the amount of change it'll have. So you can actually have it so it's kind of like you're pulling wrinkles across an underlying surface, or even like skin over a muscle or bone. You can use that. Also, you can turn that on. So basically, this is a cloth brush, right? All that is underneath brush. Elasticity of simulation iterations is turned up. So you can do that with, like, say, grab your pinch brush, crank the simulation iterations up, and now your pinch brush will behave like a cloth brush. So that's just an easy way to kind of go through and, you know, use your cloth brushes or whatever to kind of get a cloth type look. On these edges here, let's go ahead and go back up to our subdivision history. I'm going to really kind of round this one out. So this is going to be a nice soft fall off. In fact, we may even go in here with our standard brush and kind of pull out a little bit of a, like a leather ridge here. This one will keep relatively sharp, but this one will kind of pull out. And then down here on this shirt, this is where, oops, Alt tap to select the subtool. These will kind of maybe, you know what, we'll give it a little indication like these were kind of sewn together a little bit. Maybe use our move brush here. There we go. You know what? And this will actually work. We have Mike Myers, we have Jason Voorhees, we got Mr. Cenobite Pinhead, PhD. I think that'll be a decent roundup for our Halloween-esque October stream. I was hoping to get, I mean, we could do a real quick Scream or the ghost face mask if you guys want to do. If you want to stick around with me. It's my own channel, so I can go for as long as I want, except I need to go to work today, so Not too late, but we might be able to work in one more. That should be a quick one. Okay, so we got this. We got the little leather part here, and in fact, there may even be, if we go back to the head here, there's like a leather strap that goes up the back and like hooks onto the back of his head. Let's do just one hook. Alt-E-M. I'm going to go in here and just grab maybe a cylinder of 12. We're just going to pull out. Oh, this has sort of an history. Let's go. Let's Alt-tap this one. And then we'll grab a cylinder. We'll just pull this out and then pull it back in to kind of thin it out. And then we'll rotate it around and we'll say split mass points. And we'll kind of hook this to the bottom here. And then it looks like it kind of pulls down the head here. So if we want to make a hook, how do we go about doing that? So let's go into solo mode here. I'm going to do a quick group by normals and then geometry modified topology mirror and weld. Let's turn Dynamesh off. W, let's do this. Let's do, I guess this will be easy enough. Let's hit W and then control drag out, oops, just control drag out a copy of this. And then I'm going to say delete polygroup all, and we'll just delete those two polygroups here, and then we'll say bridge two holes. And in fact, we can just make like circle, optimal curvature, optimal resolution, and it'll actually just close it up for me, just to kind of give me that look. So that'll hook it over, and then we'll say, hey, I want it to stop like maybe, I don't know, a little hook. Hook will stop right here, and then Control Shift Alt, geometry modified topology, delete hidden. We'll go down here to close convex hole, and we can maybe even, let's see if we can collapse a poly loop here. Yeah, we can just collapse that down. Let's hit Control. Let's do another group by normals. And then if we want to thin this out, let's do a quick mirror and weld. We could say QMesh, polygroup all, and then just hold down Shift, and you can kind of thin it out there. So there's our hook. And that's going into our skin, unfortunately. His skin. Sorry, man. So here, here, and then we can kind of make this kind of divot in a little bit. And if we want to do another hook the other opposite way, no problemo. You know the drill by now. We'll say W, control drag out a copy in this direction. We will say delete polygroup all, bridge, switch this back over to bridge. It should still have the same settings we had earlier, so we can just tap and tap. Tappa, 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 and then we'll say Control Shift. Oh, this is going to be trickier. Let's do Control Shift, sorry, auto groups, mirror and weld, just because I want to grab this one here. Delete hidden. And this one here, we can say, you know, close convex hole. Oops. Sorry. Close convex hole. Actually, let's do this. Control W first, close convex hole, make that its own polygroup, and then we can say how much do we want this to go out? Well, let's say QMesh up. QMesh polygroup all, sorry. Here, I want it to be about yay high, and then again, we'll just collapse. Control W. Now we've got pins on both sides here, little hooks. And then for his skin here, let's alt tap his skin. Let's go back here to texture map and displacement map. We'll turn those off. And then we can say this is pulling his skin down. So we want to, let's go back down to like subdivision level 4. Make it a little bit easier to work with. So here, again, we want to kind of indicate like it's pulling skin down. And then we want to, let's go in here to transparency with ghost turned on so we can sculpt underneath an object without a problem. And then this is where let's really, let's like crank this up. So we're really gonna kind of put that in there. We'll put some more wrinkles down here. And then again, we can go into our pinch brush. Let's go down to subdivision level maybe 2, and maybe 3. And we can do like a brush cloth hook. And then go in here to thick skin. So again, we can kind of like maybe pull these wrinkles. Let's do simulation iterations. Dynamics, we don't have. Let's turn gravity off. Nothing here. really wants to smooth for some reason. Let's go up 1 subdivision level. And if it's too much, it's like, hey, you know, your max points is going to allow you to have 250. You can crank that up, or you can go in here and just grab a little piece of this so that the polygons on screen are underneath your max. There we go. That seems to be working a little better. And again, we're just kind of using thick skin to kind of go through and give us our, or even like our, man, what is going on? Pinch brush. Think. We're not on a, oh no. Hold on. Okay, good. We're not on a layer, right? I don't know, for some reason my pinch really wants to smooth for some reason. Not sure what that is. Anyway, whatever. Let's go back here to something level 5-ish, and we can just manually do this. Go into our Damien standard brush, turn off RGB, turn on Z-Add. I know I was doing some wacky stuff. Sorry, Z-Sub for the Damien standard. Again, go through here and just kind of really make these wrinkly parts seem like flesh is being pulled down. And then again, it's going to be a little bit gnarly in there. So we'll say, let's take this. Let's hit W. Let's move our pivot so we can keep this here. And we're going to rotate, and we're just use our camera angle to kind of move that back. So now we've got our hook placed, and then our cloth can kind of interact with that hook a little bit here. So it's going to kind of bulge out around this side maybe. And then here's where our hook kind of comes into the cloth. Again, transparency ghost, standard brush, lazy mouse off, Z intensity's fine. We'll kind of dig this in a little bit. And okay, and then back on here, we'll go turn our Polypaint back on, and then we'll switch back to our skin shader, and we'll sample this red, make it a little bit darker maybe, a little more saturated. We can go through here and we can, RGB turned on, go through here and just kind of indicate some general irritation on the skin. Let's go into solo mode here, and again I'm just in the crevices here. Turn on Z-Add, or I'm sorry, turn on RGB, Z-Sub off, and I'm just going to go through, and just where these things cross over, I'll just put a little bit more darker, a little more saturated color. I think that'll help break it up a little bit more. And feel free, you know, to take as long as you want, really finessing the stuff. We don't have that much time. And then once we're done, we can put in our new layers that we have, which is our happy. We can do our super creepy happy pins and our super creeper happy face. And we'll call it a day. Also, the leather part of his outfit should probably be black. So kind of looks like is that John Legend? I mean the shirt. I'm trying to think of who that would be. It looks familiar for some reason. Or you know who it is. Justin Timberlake in SNL, the gift in a box is what that reminds me of. So we'll say this is we'll say black. So Control Alt F is my hotkey for fill. So we'll go here. We'll say fill. We'll say fill, and he's just turtleneck version of Pinhead. That's fine. Again, if we do want to change, for example, we'll go back to his head. This is a polypaint now, not a texture, so we can go in here to our polypaint, and we can say adjust colors. And I'm actually gonna, let's see, let's crank up that RGB intensity. Let's see if that'll kind of get rid of some of that dullness. The red intensity itself, we probably don't want to do that. RGB contrast, yeah, that's what we're looking for. RGB contrast up a little bit. Let's turn RGB intensity down. RGB contrast up. That's good. Okay. Boom. Just kind of make them pop a little bit more. And then for the metal pins, let's go in here to maybe, I don't know, make it shiny. Let's select our pins here. And in fact, I can't hit D for dynamic because that's just going to turn my, if we do, this is one thing I wish they had. Show placement, if I hit D for dynamic, it's going to make the planes dynamic, which isn't all that helpful for these things. However, I can go in here to edit mesh, and if we're pretty good with what we like, just hit Control D. Let's do this. Let's do dynamic crease level of 2, or crease level of 1, smooth subdiv of 2, or 3. Yeah, that's fine. I think that holds the shape okay. I don't like these polarized caps. Can we alleviate this a bit? Let's go in here and just real quick insert just another one here just to kind of see if that'll catch that. It still does a pin. Yeah, it's fine. So we have this here, edit mesh show placement. Oh, so this is dynamic in here. However, if I go out of edit mesh, it's not dynamic in here. So unfortunately, we have to go in here and say dynamic apply, and then go out of edit mesh, and now they're smooth, and we'll turn off show placement. And now we've got a little bit nicer, and then we'll go back to our Skin Shader 4. Actually, the pins here, let's do MAH shiny, this color, color, mRGB turned on, color, fill object, and then if we go back to Skin Shader, show placement maybe? Or do I gotta go into edit mesh and say mRGB color fill object? Because I really don't want to lose my instances, right? Okay, that did it. Show placement off. There we go. So now we have pinheads. This one too. Sorry, this is boring. This one too, we'll hit D for dynamic. mRGB color fill object. All right, now let's dial in that expression. With the head selected, we'll go down here to layer. And we'll dial in our, we did a happy, right? Happy, we'll just crank that up. Yay. And then underneath, and we could even do like 0.5 or, because it's a linear interpolation, so I bet if we did like maybe, you know, 75% of a happy, we could do 75% of our pins, and they would still do okay. They would still pretty much line up. My gosh, pins, happy. Yeah, so that'll put our pins into place here. And there we go. We got our little happy Hellraiser. Okay, everybody good? Let's go back through here. Thank you, ATR. Glad the videos are helping. Let's say, I'm sorry, I'm going way back up here. Okay. If I missed anything, I apologize. Keep the focus shift. Yeah, we talked about that. Cool, thank you, Dev. Way to smooth polygroups after masking. For example, if we go in here to our trusty cylinder, make Polymesh 3D, subdivide up, and then we go in here to delete lower. So we're masking. And then we want to make a smooth poly group, so we can go in here to edge loop mask border, which is under geometry edge loop, and you can cut something in here, or you can just hit Control W. It'll be a little faceted. You could go in here to smooth. There is a smooth brush modifier. If you hold down Shift, you can set this to 6, and that is the weighted smooth mode for group's border, and you can literally just smooth your group's border. You can also go in here to masking, mask by your groups. Control tap to invert that, and then you can just run like a polish by feature just to kind of smooth that group border. Oh, it keeps going down to the bottom, sorry. Ever use 2D software like After Effects for animation? Not After Effects for animation, but yeah, I use Photoshop, Vegas Pro, Clip Studio, 2D stuff, but not like video edit. I'm not huge into like motion graphics or anything. Yes, like waste of good suffering. Yes, what would it, yeah, I wish I remembered any of his lines. Posable symmetry, I don't know how to use it properly. Is it going to help in posing a character? Not really. Posable symmetry is easy to break. All it really is transform. Make sure your geometry is perfectly symmetrical, and then activate symmetry. Click on use posable. Maybe better than posable symmetry, or at least hand in hand with it, is YouTube. Or you know what? Let's go to ArtStation here. ZBrush 2022. What's new, I think? Click up here and... No, it was ZBrush 2021. What's new? I forget the versions. 2021.7. What's new? Yeah, mirror flip masking and polypaint on pose model. You could check this out and see if this helps you any. So that's video 90 in my ZBrush 2022. What's new? So you can check that out here, or you can check it out here in the 2021 what's new video 90. Pinhead is Elliot Spencer. Thank you for looking that up for me. Cool, glad this is helping out. Want all the pins to have their UV set that they all look the same. What's the best way forward for this? Good point. I should have thought about that before. Your nanomeshes can have all the same UVs. Although, in fact, I bet if you went into Edit Mesh and then just did a UV master, I think it would just hold the UVs in that instance. But when you're using an IMM brush that needs UVs, I think your object has to have UVs, and it might be even safer to go in here to texture, turn on a texture map. In fact, if we go back out of here, if we do texture map, new from UV check, these UVs are bad, but they are UVs. So if we go in here and say, okay, give me a texture, and then we go in here to, assuming these have, yeah, so this will have your UVs for your object turned on. So same thing with Nanomesh, I think. Could be wrong. Leatherface would have been an easy one too. Freddy, yep. Man, okay, I might have to go use the bathroom real quick, and then we'll just get rolling for a little bit longer. Oh, Zency Labs, input lag issue, turn off Windows Ink in the Zency Labs application. Yes, that's what I had to do for ZBrush now that you mention it. If I pull this up, let's make sure I... yeah, for ZBrush specifically. 3-button pin tablet. Yeah, Windows Ink is turned off for ZBrush, you're right. Good call. Taste our pleasures. Oh my god. Cool. All right. Give me 1 second, because and we'll hop back into. I don't have any music I can play, do I? No. Okay. I'm gonna leave this up on my screen. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back, and we'll keep moving. I think there's a couple more we can do real quickly. I don't know if it's better or worse. They sent me it, so it's free. It was free for me, so I'll take that as a win. Guess I could have muted my mic, huh? Okay, cool. Thank you, John Yu, for stopping by. Beginner question, is there a way to turn a black and white image into a mask? Superman's chest logo. Yeah, for sure. In fact, just go into whatever black and white image you have, go in here to alpha import, and that'll load it up as an alpha. For example, it'll look something like this. So you'll bring in your alpha like this. So make your white part of your Superman white and then black where you want it to be transparent. And then if you hold down Control, you can load that alpha up. Set this to like drag rect or hell, even mask pin. You can just drag it out and then just position it and then boop, you can drop it. But we have pin selected, so we don't want to unmask that. So okay, I think this is it just cracks me up. Yep. Okay, we got a little Hellraiser guy. Let's go in here to save as. And we're just going to burn through, let's see, Hellraiser 02. Let's do a couple really quick ones. So we got this saved. I'm going to go back to my Mike Myers because that's got my base head in it. And in fact, we might be able to turn old Myers into Leatherface pretty quick. Let me do this. Let me load up some reference real quick. Let's say close and then open. We'll do Leatherface first. Because this is just kind of like a, let's see, Leatherface. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, he's just kind of like a head with some stitches around the head, right? Yeah, I think we can do that pretty fast. So, okay, we've saved this. Let's go in here. You know what? Let's close down ZBrush. Oh, it's still saving. Yeah, I need to. I'm gonna save these projects on my main drive. This isn't my main computer. Let's make sure I don't have anything else open. Jeez. So I was just throwing stuff on drives, and I obviously picked the wrong one. No problem, JP Graphics. Okay, so load. Let's go grab Myers. We were working on yesterday. We can turn him into a real quick Leatherface, I think, because it's already kind of set up. So we got this. It's got a shirt with a collar. Let's go in here. Let's turn off all of this. This hair is not right, so we'll go ahead and just delete it out of our scene here. He's already kind of a Leatherface-y guy. So it kind of goes around and then the front of his head. So let's see what we got here. I'm going to say geometry, subdivision level 1, Control Shift tap just the front part, geometry modified by delete. If you want to know how we did this, oh, it's not going to let us. Oh, it will let us delete higher. Delete hidden. There we go. So the ear looks like it's kind of just filled in. It's just skin. So we're just going to say, you know what, we'll just smooth this out. And then the cut happens just around here. So I'm going to hold down Control Shift. Or we can mask. Let's go through here and I'm going to hold down Control and we're going to mask like up the head and then around the ear. And then it kind of looks like the hair kind of does something like this. It's like it's loosely stitched. So we're going to do a little bit of stitching here. And actually I can stay on for like another hour. Okay, so Control-Alt-Tap to kind of sharpen this up. And then again, we'll do a quick edge loop mask border here. And we can grab the green stuff and we'll say delete hidden. And then also on the face here, let's go ahead and smooth this out. It looks like it's like looks like there's even some wire in there to keep it open. I guess they kind of had to do that for. I think are they doing another remake of this too? I don't remember. So it's kind of an odd kind of just shape like this. So again, we'll just take this one here, and again we'll do an edge loop mask border, which is going to slice that through, and then we'll say delete hidden. Okay, so there's our leather face-ish. The eyeballs maybe a little bit smaller. Looks like it is a little more form-fitting to his eyeball there. Okay, ZModeler, same. I don't need to go any lower, I don't think, but I'm just getting some new geometry, so on those odd cuts we made. And in fact, we want to clean this up a little bit. Instead of doing polygroup border, we can go down here to mask our open border. Control-Tap to invert that. We'll do a quick polish by features. And then again, let's turn on perspective here. ZModeler, same. You can maybe do a half. I don't know, why not? Nice. In fact, if you want to do a different algorithm for that midline, you can go in here to Geometry, ZRemesh. You can hold down Alt and then click ZRemesh. That'll give you a different midline that may work better depending on your geometry. Yeah. Okay, so we have our Leatherface here. So now this is just going to be kind of skin. I'm always hesitant to add thickness, thick to this, but I guess we're going to have to. So let's do an extrude polygroup ball. We're just going to pull in a little bit, and then way down here, display properties, flip. And then we can also just take this and hold down shift and pull along that surface symbol if we want to. Let's do a crease PG, crease level of 1, smooth subdiv of 2. And then I'll kind of keep those edges a little bit. And then now we can just go through here and just kind of sculpt in. So we can, on his head too, let's go down to his head. Let's go to his texture map. We'll turn that off for now. And because he's got a pretty gnarly mouth. Let's build that in. Let's go in here because we have the means to do this. So we were playing around with the expression base mesh. So let's go in here to our layers, and let's say I want to do again a snarl. So that'll kind of give us a little bit of a snarl like this. And even, you know what? Let's go into, I think we have to go to the highest subdivision level to make changes to these. So I'm going to go in here, and for the snarl, we're going to change this a little bit. So snarl, hey whiskey. Let's go into solo mode here, and I'm going to go into move brush, auto masking, and we're going to say topological range down to 1.5. And that way, for the snarl specifically, I can say, oops, let's go into record mode. And I'm going to say, I guess we have to go all the way up, don't we? Can we do, I'm going to do a little bit. You know what, let's make a new one. It's going to shoot it down here at the bottom. And while we're recording, I'm just going to say this lip. Up a little bit, and we're on fairly high resolution, so here, and then I'm going to turn off X symmetry, and we're going to crank up one side of his face, because again, I think he's got some, we have topological turned on, so we can do that. And then okay, we'll turn off record on that one. Or you know what we could do? Okay, I'm not going to overthink this one either. You know what? We're just going to bake all, no expressions for this guy, and we're just going to go through here manually and just kind of turn on X symmetry, and we're just going to raise his eyes up a little bit, and let's turn off topological because that's killing my perf. Okay, here's our head. And then, okay, so damn standard 02, X symmetry turned off. He's gonna have kind of, he's gonna be a little bit beat up in here a little bit. So we'll kind of go in here and just kind of mush him up a little bit. We'll turn off RGB, smooth up here. So again, we're on subdivision level 6. So we'll go through here, and wherever we can see his face, we'll just kind of dial in a little bit of detail. So Damien standard, hold down Alt. Again, X symmetry turned on. Back for the eye. We'll kind of pull this out just a tad here, just kind of sharpen that up a little bit, and we'll kind of push this back in, and then maybe go into our damn standard 02, and we'll just kind of do some crisscross eye bag wrinkles here. For the Leatherface itself, again, we have stitches around here. We could, you know what, now that I think about it, we could go through and like slice in. I think I'm going to play it simple on this one. We've done before in previous live streams where we've gone through and we've you know, used geometry to place the stitching, I think we'll just do it manually. So we're going to go in here with our Damp Standard 02, and we're just going to cut where the head is. So we're just going to go right around here. Oops. Let's see, brush, reset all. There it is. What am I doing wrong here? Oh, we have dynamic. So if I do Shift D, you're going to see that's the real geometry we're messing with. So D here, and then just apply. So dynamic apply. That'll give you your real geometry, so you can go through, and let's hit Control D one more time. Because we're going to very quickly go through here and just be like, okay, our stitches go back to the, actually kind of high, kind of here, and then they go back to the corner of the ear, and then they go back around the ear, and then they go down the side of the face here. And then it looks like he's got kind of a hole right about here-ish. Okay, so that's where the stitches go in. So now, and you know what? I changed my mind. We can use that path as a stitch path. Really, you know, we'll do two versions. We'll do just regular stitches back here. We just manually put them in, and then we'll use a little technique here. So we'll duplicate this off. I'm going to go into delete lower. So this is again on our duplicate. Hold down Control Shift, just grab the red, delete hidden, Control Shift, go in here to slice curve. And I'm just going to slice through where we put our stitch here, and we're going to use this as a path for our stitch. So we'll slice through here. We'll say, you know what? We'll say, Control Shift, and then do Control Shift S to shrink, and then delete hidden. And then again, I'm going to do a real quick mask by border, Control Tab to invert that, polish by features, deformation, polish by features, ZModeler half, and then now we'll have a path along here we can follow with stitches. This might make things a little bit quicker. Okay, so we want to put stitches along here. So I think we do have a stitch brush. If you look up stitches on my channel, you'll see a ton of custom stitches that we've already made. I'm just going to go to my IMM brush because I'm certain I have one in here. Seems like every time I do a live stream, we do a new custom stitch brush. And watch me not have one. Oh, stitches. Stitches bunch. Stitches. Let's have, do we have one more in here? Okay. Get rid of that. M. So we got a bunch of different stitches in here. I'm just going to take this one here, that kind of oblong one, and we're going to say, okay, we're going to do two passes. We're going to go in here to stroke. Let's change this so you can see a little bit better. Stroke, curves. Let's open up all of these. We can frame our open border in this case. Turn off X symmetry so we don't want to get overlapping, and we're going to say frame our mesh with this stitch here, and we're just going to tap, and that'll put kind of stitches along here, and we can use that to our advantage. We only need the one down the face, but that's totally fine. And if we want to change that, we can change the curve step. So we'll say curve step of like maybe 1.25 just to space them out a little bit more, and it stays a little bit more. There we go. And you know what? Make the brush size a little bit bigger, they are pretty rough. So we've got that one going in that direction. That's totally fine. So I'm going to tap off here. We're going to say split mask points, and then I'm going to get rid of these ones here. So just really quickly, just grab them. Control Shift A, Control Shift drag, delete hidden. So now go back to this one here, and I want them to go the other direction. Do I have one in the other direction? I don't, but what I could do is just use this one. We could, again, frame our mesh, grab this one in here, again, curve step to maybe 3. There we go. And then again, we'll just tap to delete. If you can't tap to delete for some reason or whatever, if it's too close, you just hit delete. Again, split mask points, solo. Control Shift, grab, delete hidden. Let's do a quick auto groups. So we have one stitch going this way, and then we want the other stitch going the other way. So I can just grab these ones going this direction. And then I can just offset these really quickly. Again, this is more just to like show you like, hey, frame a mesh. So I am getting a little bit more complicated than I should. We'll invert that. There we go. So we got the stitches going the other way. We're going to say delete hidden, and then again, move brush, size down to 1, topological turned on, and then I can just quickly just kind of scoot these over, get kind of a baseball stitch, semi-baseball stitch thing going, just for variation. Not ideal, but you know what? It gets the job done. And then these ones at the bottom I don't need. So here, just kind of quickly get these into place. Again, if you're doing this on your own, spend some time, do it right. You don't have to be super speedy. And then we'll just merge these together. That's on your subtool merge down. Whoops, wrong one. We'll grab this one here, Shift A, split hidden. It is this one and this one merged down. And then again, move brush just to kind of get these in there. So now to sell, let's go ahead and hit D for dynamic, and I'm going to thicken these up a little bit, maybe inflate, deformation inflate of like 1 or 2 or 3. And then back on our skin here, we don't need this little placeholder anymore, so we can go ahead and just delete that out of our scene. Alt tap back down here, and then we can just go in here to transparency and ghost, and then hold down Alt with our standard brush, and we can kind of just punch in a little bit so it looks like the, let's turn up Z intensity a little bit, and we'll take our lazy radius, turn that off. There we go. So now this will kind of give it a little bit of a punched look. In fact, we may need to manually move some of these stitches around. It's not a huge deal. Oh, you know what? Stupid. X symmetry turned off because this is not symmetrical operation. And when we start dragging the skin around, oh yeah, and these back down here we don't need either. So all these ones at the bottom here, let's get rid of them. Delete hidden. And then for stitches too, what we can do is we're going to do the manual stitches. We'll turn on X symmetry for that when we go around the ear. And since there's such a small, I mean, you could have done it just as fast with this too, but again, we'll go back to our stitch brush we have. We'll hit M. We'll just grab this one that goes to the side. Make our brush size however big it wants to be. Alt tap these, so we just put it on this subtool, and then hold down. Switch this stroke out. Oh, we have curve brush, underneath stroke, turn off curve mode. That'll turn it back into an IMM brush. Then you just drag these out. So this, hold down Control and snap it to the right size, make this a little bit smaller. And then you can literally just go in here and just put these around as needed. So again, if you just need to add a few, just use it as an IMM brush. Change the depth if you want to, so it embeds automatically a little bit more. But again, move brush with topological turn on. You can go through here and you can embed these or move these around a little bit more. And if in fact, we can go in here to auto groups, just let's give a polygroup for every single one of these. W, Control tap any one of these, and then you can manually go through and just gizmo them real quick. Just by W and then Control tap on any polygroup, and then it'll automatically unmask an individual polygroup here. Yada yada. And then again, you can just switch back to move brush with topological and just quickly kind of move these in as needed. And then if you turn topological off, or you can have topological turned on, so you only mess with one. You can also do mask by polygroups up, but you can also just go through here manually and just kind of move these things in or out or make them more pronounced or whatever. So, which is kind of what I want to do. So options for you is what I'm getting at here. Up, over, down, over. All right, now we're cooking. Okay, so Alt S, let's go to my standard brush. And I'm not even gonna turn on transparency. It actually kind of works that it's blocking me underneath the stitches, so it's kind of giving me a nice little divot at the ends, which is really what I'm looking for. And again, we want to have this like that hanging skin type look, so we're going to go through and we're going to use our cloth brushes just to kind of get those nice wrinkles going pretty fast. I hope it works out like it is in my head. Usually the processes work out flawlessly in my head, and then when I execute on them, it doesn't always go to plan, but we'll see. So let's go in here again, Damien standard brush, and we're just going to kind of put in general wrinkle direction that we're looking for here. Kind of pulls around here. The nose is, you know what, the nose is a little more defined in the mask than what we have here. So let's turn on X symmetry. And we'll go in with our, again, our Damien standard brush. I think it'll work. And we'll kind of just indicate, you know, nostrils that were in here from the previous owner. And then up here, and then it looks like we'll play around a little bit with giving this head some expression. It's not exactly how it's going to look in the movie. Let's call it artistic license. Here, and then we want to look like it's pulling from these, right? So we maybe want to kind of, you know, it's kind of locked in where these are. So in fact, the anchor point's going to be here where the threads are in, and then it's going to kind of bulge around the threads. So we'll go back to our standard brush. We can kind of just like fan in some wrinkles in this way. And again, we'll punch up the wrinkles with our cloth brushes, but I think this will work here. And then on the head here, it just kind of skin stretch. So we'll exaggerate through here. Let's make sure that's off. Okay. And then where these pull, we're just going to exaggerate some wrinkles where it's kind of anchored. Of course, we have to turn off X symmetry, so we can go and do asymmetrical wrinkle pulls from here, and then the opposite. So again, they're anchored here, and then on the other side, they'll be anchored this way. We'll merge those together as one. On the back of the neck here, just kind of dial in some general wrinkles this way. And then that'll just be covered with hair up there. So here's the eye bags here. We'll just kind of, again, just this flesh just pulled. Swap back to the standard brush here. And let's turn on lazy radius, crank up the lazy radius a bit. That's under your stroke menu. And we'll just kind of exaggerate some of these pulls here. So here, so it's going to bunch up. So in between here, these are bothering me. Go in, you. Thank you. Standard brush. So in between the stitches, bulge out like so. So we've carved in. Now we're going to go and pull out. Let's turn off X symmetry, and we'll kind of sweep this over a little bit just to kind of make that a little bit more, like, you know, again, like this face is kind of being stretched over. So it's kind of a turn-off stream doing Hellraiser and the Leatherface. I don't know that it's super pleasant to look at. But hey man, it's Halloween, so why not? Okay, so I guess there's, I'm not gonna say cartilage is in here, but maybe they put a little cotton, stuffed a little cotton underneath here to hold that nose shape a little bit. And then we'll go back in with our clay brush, and we'll kind of use this to kind of build up. You can use clay brush, clay build up, just to kind of go in and add a little extra face. In fact, yeah, let's go to clay build up. Again, very low intensity on our clay build up. I'm just kind of working across our forms here. And turn off X symmetry. And yeah, we'll just kind of build up. Maybe this little node over here. Lips are kind of stretched out. No vermilion border. I think he just went through and cut the mouth out, so no lips on the mask. And then for the wrinkles, we'll go through and we'll kind of get rid of some of our brush strokes with a little bit of smoothing, and hold down shift and then let go of shift as you're smoothing, and that'll maintain your volumes a little bit better. And then back into our pinch brush here, let's drop our Z intensity down, or our subdivisions down. So as we go through with our pinch brush, again with elasticity turned up, simulation iterations turned up, that'll act as a cloth brush, maybe subdivision level 4 even. And then we'll hide. Yeah, I mean, just go through and kind of exaggerate some of these. You can use the, so like we talked about before, you can use the contrast brushes to introduce contrast, but in this case I want to use the cloth brushes just to kind of go through and make it look like, you know, the skin is really kind of wrinkled and going in a certain direction. Gives it more of a skin look. And we'll just grab these ones here now. And again, we're just kind of exaggerating. Well, that's a little creepy looking, isn't it? Control Shift Tab to bring everything back, and then, yeah, right down the middle of the face here. And again, if it's too wrinkly, just drop the subdivisions down. You can change the firmness, but in our case, I think just dropping the subdivisions down is good enough. And then you bring them back up. There you go. And again, if we want to push skin across, we can go in here to brush, cloth, hook, and then change our thick skin. Where's that at? Thick skin here, turn it on. So here's the influence. So now when we go through and kind of push our cloth hook brush around, a little bit more. Oh, and then now we gotta hide a little bit because we're over our max limit. And in fact, let's go down to sort of level 3. So now when we're pushing across, it's like we're pushing skin over a surface, so we can go through here and just kind of nudge. There's actually a cloth nudge that might be better than this, but let's turn our Z intensity down. Yeah, so we'll kind of nudge the skin in that direction just to kind of, and all the cloth is doing, if you want more information on the cloth, again on my YouTube channel, my ArtStation page, I think cloth is introduced in ZBrush 2020. So go to the 2020 what's new, and there's a ton of cloth things you can do. A lot of cloth settings and a lot of fun snapping. You can wrap topology to another topology using cloth. You can do kind of hard surface simulation with cloth too. You can record your cloth. All sorts of interesting stuff. So let's calm these down a little bit. The intensity down on my brush there. Okay, so we got this, and then if we want to do just a little bit for the head here, let's go in here to standard brush and just kind of and then for our face here, I think we can turn, if I got rid of this, I can go grab it. Yep, we still have it. So texture back on. We'll go here to Skin Shader 4. We do need to add hair. He's got some real curly hair. It's kind of messy. So in that case, what we'd have to do is take this one here, duplicate this off, geometry, delete higher, delete lower, solo mode, control shift grab just the red. Delete hidden. Let's go through here and say, okay, so this is all one polygroup, right? Let's turn off line, we don't need to see that. I'm gonna go through here, we'll have X symmetry off, I suppose. Let's do this, let's see if we can't. Mask lasso. So that's where our hair is gonna end up. And we'll say Control W, and then we'll grab this piece. And we'll go from the sides here. Actually, we don't want hair right here. So this is Control W. This is going to be our hair cap. So we'll say delete hidden. And then, what's an easy way to do this? You know, okay, fine. Just Control. We'll go back to Mask Pin. I'm going to, I want to do Control Alt, Control Tab, and then Control Alt, Control W, Control W, Control W, Control W. Basically just, you can probably tell what I'm doing. Making different polygroups. So when I go through and I grow hair through here, I can have easy polygroups all set up for me to kind of clump together. Save me some time. And you could use slicing, but then it's going to be kind of the same on both sides, and down the middle it would do something. It wouldn't, I don't want it the same down the middle, so this is fine. This is fine, I got the job done. So now Control Tap here, we want to make sure double-sided is turned off, and then we're going to go over here to Fibermesh, and we're going to say Preview. And the modifiers it kept from the previous session. So base and tip is turned to white. Twist is turned down. I think we're okay. I think this is about what we want. Maybe a little bit more of a length. And then also my segments up to 11. Let's see, max fibers. I tend to work with less max fibers and a little more coverage because I like a little bit of a thicker hair. Your mileage may vary. You can go up here to BPR render and see, you know, how it'll preview out for you. I think that'll work. So, yeah, good enough. So we'll go ahead and say accept. Sure, we can do fast preview. If you don't want fast preview, just go down to your preview settings and just turn that off, and that'll be your real hair, and then you can turn this down to whatever you'd like. Whatever. So go to solo mode here. And now I have quick access to, you know, being able to clump these. So I can do Control Shift, do brush groom. You can try groom clumps and see if we can't just like, you know, clump little sections here and there, and then isolate this one, do the exact same thing. So we're just going to go through and just quickly see if we can't kind of clump stuff. We're not going to do curls. In fact, I would, if I was doing this for real, I would do a base, just kind of a base volume sculpt, and then put curves or put geometry along those volumes, and then convert that geometry to curves. But we're not going to do that today because we're just doing it quick, man. Here and here. And yeah, this kind of boring stuff too. It's like I need my eyeballs on the screen, but I also, this would be a good time for me to catch up on the chat. So I need a little robot to read to me. And I can be answering questions while I clump hair. Sorry about that, everybody. One day I'll be a professional streamer. Wouldn't that be cool? I don't know if that'd be cool. You guys probably get real tired of me. Once a month is about all people can take of me. Here, clump it, clump it, clump it. And just like anything else, you can use your own brushes. So instead of doing the clump brush, you could actually use just the pinch brush or the move brush, or some settings you need to change. We talked a little bit about it on the Mike Myers section of yesterday's, or Tuesday's stream, I should say. But we'll talk a little bit about that today too. Because we are going to have to groom these back a little bit. And in fact, you could go in here to mask by polygroups up to 100 and just leave what you have on here, and then whatever polygroup you touch first, but it'll maybe interact with other areas. So in order to avoid that, I'll just go through here and I'll just clump individually. So good enough. I think we've got some decent clumping, and now we're going to go through here and try and groom it back. Now the groom brushes are notoriously a little bit difficult to wrangle, but we'll give it a shot. So we'll go here to brush, groom, hair toss, and again we'll just see if we can't just lay back, you know, some of these backwards here. And again, you can just use the move brush. One thing, if you're going to use the move brush, is go in here to brush, auto masking. Mask by Fibermesh is already turned on. That's going to mask the root for you, but underneath brush Fibermesh, preserve length up to 100, and that'll make it so you can use the move brush. Oops, turn off topological. You can use the move brush, but it's not going to let you make the hair longer. If you want to make the hair longer, then dial back your settings. But so again, we just want these to kind of not be so just out. Although it's not a terrible look. Luckily, we're doing gross slasher serial killer guys, so unless you're making like a Patrick Bateman. So again, pinch brush here. You can just literally just pinch these together. You don't have to groom. And it's already fiber meshed. But yeah, luckily the stuff we're making is, you can get away with a little bit of frazzle. Doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, if it was perfect, it'd probably look a little weird. So we'll use that to our advantage. Brush, groom, BG, hair toss. I'm just going to take some of these back. You know, I probably should have done that first, is maybe groomed some of these in a direction and then go through and clump. You can also smooth, and it'll smooth, it'll kind of shrink your fibers too. And then brush, groom, clumps. Oh, that's another thing too, is you can actually, if you forgot to do polygroups, or if you want to split this into more polygroups, control drag with your mask pin, and that'll just mask out the entire group here. You can hit control W to make that its own polygroup, and now you've got polygroups just for this. So go nuts. Okay, good enough here. In fact, let's go in here to fill, and you could even go through here and I'll maybe put in some highlights. So all it is just paint with your RGB brush, and you can literally just paint along the segments here. So if you want to kind of put in a little salt and pepper, or you can just mask individual fibers if you want to, just with your mask pin. Kind of go through here to kind of mask them out, and then let's do a hide point. Yeah, then you can do is do a fill, and that'll give you salt and pepper on just those ones. There we go. Anyways, okay. And then just a real rough pass. The skin, it doesn't really super read as a skin texture. If we wanted to bring in some reference, we could just paint skin on there. Let's do this. Let's go in here to just a general color fill on the mask here, and maybe even a little darker. Okay, I'm gonna load in some reference here. So texture import. I think I got some. We need our human male. Yes, bonus Peter. I have a person on here, so I'm going to take some of his images and just load them up. This is from 3DSK, so I'm just going to load this one up, and then we're going to scale it down, turn this down a little bit here. Sorry, man, we're going to have to take your head and put it into place. Standard brush, RGB, underneath the brush settings here, go into samples, turn on spotlight projection, and then just kind of line this up. And let's turn off lazy mouse, and let's turn on X symmetry, and then we can just go through here. Let's also turn our RGB intensity down, and we can just start painting in a little bit of skin tone and skin texture, just as kind of a starting point. Around the mouth here, underneath the nose. Chin. Back of the head. Neck. Jaw. And then let's bring in another texture. Let's go back of the head here. We'll just add that to our spotlight. Scale this down a bit, and then take this picture here, and we will just get rid of it. Again, we're just playing it fast and loose here. Z rotates it around, and then we'll position it. Maybe RGB intensity up just a little bit more. Change my mind. Let's grab this one again. We can just scoot this one over, and we can just go back and forth here. Because I do want to capture some of that skin detail, because I think that might look decent. And we can always, again, I'm hesitant to like go full skin, but honestly at this point, go full skin and we can always knock it back. It's probably easier to knock it back in the poly paint than it is to dial it in slowly. I'm just guessing. And obviously these photographs aren't like polarized lenses or anything, so we're building in a lot of that's what I'm looking for. Lighting and stuff, but that's okay, we'll live. Oh, you know what we should have done? Stupid. Oh, geometry. Go to your highest subdivision level. In fact, maybe even subdivide one more time. Because we're poly painting, so all of that detail is being put on to polygons. And if you don't have very many polygons, your poly paint's not going to be very high res, is it? So luckily this should go pretty fast. And we'll just steal a little bit of skin here. Okay, that's creepy. Let's go hit C to sample. We'll go into standard brush. We can try a spray. Let's go grab our gnarly alpha and we'll just kind of spray. Again, just kind of sampling and spraying. Sampling and spraying. We'll get rid of some of the differentiation here. We'll cover some of this up. You can use your extractor brush like we did earlier if you want to steal some textures. But I'm just going to play it fast and loose. Again, this is just these kind of, we can always adjust the poly paint too, remember that. But the skin itself in the reference is not super, and again you can use a color spray too if you want to vary your color strokes. I'm just going through and sampling as I go to vary it, so I think we're okay. And then we can switch from the spray stroke to a dot stroke, and then you can just keep the same alpha And now you can just kind of blend colors through here. And this is where it can kind of sometimes get tedious. And if you want to do this really well, you could actually go through and you could, let's do this. Z plugin, UV master, and we're going to say symmetry, polygroups, work on clone, unwrap, copy UVs. We'll go back here and we'll paste our UVs. So if we want to paint on this flat, if you had a flat texture map, which, oh man, I could go grab one. We could go in here to UV map, we can morph UV, and that'll flatten it out. And then you can literally paint flattened. So that's kind of neat. You could do both. Okay, and then for the around the stitching too, it looks kind of like it's kind of dried and yellowy, and it's not real goopy or anything. It's tanned, I suppose you could say. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our Polypaint here, like I said. Let's turn off solo mode, and I'm going to change this a little bit to adjust colors. We're going to desaturate it a bit, maybe even drop that hue from the reds over to the yellows a bit. RGB intensity, wait, no. Intensity, no, but contrast. Maybe a little more contrast. You know what, maybe a little more saturated, but a little more push towards the yellows. It's kind of how it looks. Something like that. And then we got the hair here. We could even go through, I think, and maybe even inflate. Oh no, we didn't. It's going to add thickness when we do the BPR render. All right. Yeah, Leatherface. So let's grab those stitches and let's go in here to move brush again. Topological turned on. So we can make sure all of these are embedded. And while we're doing this, let's go ahead and make these very dark, like so. And then to kind of make these fit a little bit more, I'm going to go back to the skin. And we're going to say, what are we going to say? We're going to sample, and then we're going to go to a darker, say more saturated, more red maybe. Maybe not that red. Maybe not that saturated. And then right along here, let's go ahead and hide this hair real quick. We don't need this hair cap anymore, do we? Well, you know, let's do this. Let's go back to our masking like we did earlier. Mask by cavity. Go back to the... I guess we can change the cavity profile too. And then go to mask adjust. Reset. Let's see if we can't grab less. There we go. Control tab to invert that. We'll turn off view mask, and then in our cavities we can kind of just quickly go through and brush some darker reds. And then unmask, and then go back in with our Damien standard brush, RGB down a little bit, and we'll just kind of punch up some of this here. So just where the stitches go, make the skin look a little bit irritated, I guess is what I'm going for. Kind of seat them in a little bit better. And we're moving super fast, obviously, so this is borderline cartoon cartoon work. If you really wanted to have fun with this, I don't know if fun's the right word, but you could take the scan texture and then wrap it and then go through and apply like a really realistic skin that's pushed and pulled in this direction. That would actually look really cool, I think. Again, cool might not be the right word. Look really effective. Okay, and then just real quick, we'll do a little bit of cleanup. So standard brush, C to sample, RGB, and I'm gonna go through and do a quick, like, we'll do the golden zones up here. So we'll paint in just a little touch of like orange and yellow, and then where the blood pools, of course there's no blood, but just to kind of use that language to kind of go through here and add. Let's turn this alpha off a little bit here. The intensity or RGB intensity down. Just introduce a little splash of color through here, and then down through here we'll change it to a little cooler, and then maybe introduce some of that into the neck. Okay, and then his shirt is just kind of brownish, so we'll say fill, and then a little bit lighter, a little less saturated, RGB turned on, and we'll go through and just kind of. Now again, if I was going to be texturing this thing, we'd throw it into, you know, Substance Painter or whatever, and then just throw some grunge and dirt on there and fabric and do that for real. But again, we're in cartoony mode almost, so quick and dirty. The name of the game here on. And then, you know what, let's go in here to material modifiers, wax modifiers, crank the strength up. It'll tell you, hey, you got to go in here to render properties, turn on wax preview, and then underneath our material, we don't need that much strength, so but just a tiny bit of wax on here to kind of sell that a little bit. We could even go into the eyeballs here and say, let's change that to toy plastic. M color, fill object, intensity at 100. Let's go back to skin shader material. We'll take this diffuse up to 1. And now that I see that, let's go back to our Polypaint. Adjust. Let's do knock that back just a bit. Ding, ding, ding. All right, we got a Leatherface-ish. Okay, I think I'm good. I do have a 9:30 meeting. At least I hope it is. Let me check. Yep. Okay, so I gotta head out. Okay, let me go back up here. Cool Superman chest like we talked about. I'm gonna make screw threads and zebras. Can you please demonstrate, if possible, screw to fit into each other? So I want to know how I can make those threads. That would be a, let's do a quick save. That would be for me, it'd be a Fusion 360 thing. Number one, I could just download a McMaster car component and just do that. But for this type of thing, it would be something like polyframe fill, make Polymesh 3D, W Alt. And then you'd have to add like a helix. Boy, yeah, it gets complicated. You would make it would be basically a Boolean helix here. So you'd go in here to, initialize. Let's get rid of this radius here. The profile coverage is fine. We want to, do that, but then also we want to do S divides down so that it kind of cuts in. And then we can go through here and say, okay, append this. Append this. Don't need this. Change this to a Boolean mesh, live Boolean. Scale this in a little bit so then you can do like screws. Let's hit D for dynamic, and we'll go ahead and say crease tolerance here. So you can create a thread for this, and then you would, let's go ahead and move this down. So this is our screw thread, right? So we'll say Boolean dynamic subdivision, make Boolean mesh, and then we'll have our U mesh here. So if we append a cylinder and take this here, this is going to be our drill. And then we're going to duplicate this off, scoot it down, make this subtractive. So now when we use this to drill, it will go through and drill a threaded thing down through this object. Yeah. Damn standard alpha. If you just hit BD, it should just be loaded by default. Damn standard. There's your brush alpha. That just comes with ZBrush, so. Cool. I'm from Croatia. I think maybe way back when. I think my name might have been spelled Pavlovic with a C and then a little, that little Croatian symbol over it that makes it a CH. And then when my ancestors came over, great-grandpa or somebody, I think they might have changed it to Pavlovich. That might be the case. Don't quote me on that. This is not Pinhead. This is Leatherface. However, let's load him up. So we've done this one here. So let's do Shift. Let's turn on perspective. Let's turn on Shift S to snapshot that, and then we'll go back into streaming. What was his name? We did, yeah, Pinhead. Hellraiser. We'll load him up, and he's smiling. We gave him an expression. So we'll just scoot him over. He loads. Yes. Just two guys hanging out, being weirdos. There's our cool Barbie girl for sure. ZBrush Cloth versus Marvelous Designer. They're both useful, especially if I'm just moving fast. ZBrush Cloth, however, if we wanted to do, I won't have time to do it today, but I did have something ready that I did do in Marvelous Designer. We'll load that up here, and we'll say startup material. We got a little Marvelous Designer hoodie for Ghostface, which again I didn't get to, but I had this ready to go just in case. Oops, display properties, double. Oh, this one is what we want, double on. There we go. So we did have the beginnings of the Scream Ghostface. You use Noise Maker to populate different color circles, then polygroups by color. Yeah, that could work. Give that a shot. I don't see why that wouldn't work. Yeah, and my camera's like way up here, so yeah, this setup's a little bit different. So extremely low poly work in ZBrush, is that better suited for Blender? Kind of depends on what you want to do, but I do plenty of low poly work in ZBrush, just using ZModeler. Current poly count 19. Well, this guy I guess is 19 million, but Hellraiser, I don't think these guys were that high. Leatherface, 21 million, but I think most of that is honestly like the super high resolution face. That's about AI for 3D stuff. Already working on text to 3D, looks incredible. Yeah, give it time. And movie scripts, I mean, if you follow the path, it'll be basically, you can get an AI to generate a movie script based on, the 12 stories that are basically told, and 3-act play. So you can have an AI fill in those blanks based on what kind of subject matter you want. And maybe it won't be perfect, but maybe it'll get you 80% there, and then you can get 80% of a script written in 15 seconds, and then you can spend 2 weeks refining that or finessing that or looking for happy accidents or interesting sliders you can pull to give you a good movie script. And movie script versus content creation, exact same thing. But eventually it'll get to the point where it'll just give you a full script, and then eventually it'll get to the point where like you can plug that movie script into another AI, or an AI can take that and go, oh, you want to watch this movie? Okay, let me populate the environments, the characters, the dialogue, and then just watch this movie that I created. It might take a while to get there, but I'm gonna probably get there. Yeah, Morph UV painting, excellent. I think it's super useful. In fact, if you want more information on that, one more time, my YouTube channel, we actually did that a little bit. That's the ZBrush 2020. What's new is where we go through, and I think I actually do morph his head down. So the ZBrush 2020 what's new is the morph head UV texturing, so I literally did do
great work.
This. So go through and just kind of flatten them out and then morph paint and then morph it back. So super useful, fun and exciting. for the whole family. So we'll go ahead and say, here's my playlists. Check those out. And if you ever see me doing anything that's like, hey, what is Fibermesh? You can just type it in. And then on my ArtStation page, same deal. These ones have a little bit more sometimes, but here's the intro to ZBrush and then all the What's New series in here, plus some other live streamy stuff here. And then also on my YouTube channel, look for that big blue genie underneath my playlists. And that will be all the previous live streams right here. So, and I usually break them up into chapters, at least the last 20 that I've done. When I upload, I'll just break them down into chapters. So you can click on any of these, and if you're like, hey, what did you do for this particular thing? You can just hover over the chapters and go through here and be like, yeah, strap creation techniques. Or you can go down here to the description. Sometimes I'll have more, like here's the multi-expression brace mesh, previous live streams, and then down through here, you can just look for what you're going for, or scroll through the chapters here. How cool is that? Alpha and split screen. Split screen, yeah, it's a tough one. I'm not sure how much functionality you can get out of split screen just by default. You ever work in Fusion 360 with weapon designs? If yes, any chance of doing a stream on that? It's been a while, but yes, if you want more Fusion 360 stuff, way down at the bottom of my playlist here, go away, window. Here's a Fusion 360 quick start. It's old, but still relevant, I think. And if you go down here to number 12, that's where you get into like going from ZBrush to Fusion 360, Fusion 360 to ZBrush. Let me give you a little start there. It's right to use Character Creator for characters creation ZBrush because they're rig ready. Even if you're not rig ready, you can throw them into Character Creator. I'll have more on that at some point. Cool. Nice basic word. ZBrush Dynamish. You want to go back and forth character create? Yes. Yeah. So as far as like being rig ready, you can take any mesh, simplify it, zero mesh it down, throw it over to character create, auto rig it, paint weights, send it back. You know, you can update it that way. So again, more on that in a bit. Give me a minute. But cool. All right. Thanks everybody. I got to run. Happy Halloween. And we'll see you next month unless I decide to live stream before then. We'll see how it goes. But thanks. Have a good rest of your week.